Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Pitch. Swing and a drive to left field. This may get over that green monster, and it is gone. A home run for Justin Turner. His 16th of the year is a 2-run shot, and 3 runs are in here in the bottom of the 7th for the Red Sox. And Buck Showalter is touching the third base line as the plate is being stepped on by Turner.
Swung on and driven to center field. Going back is the center fielder, Carlson. He looks up. It's in the basket. Cody Bellinger on fire all month long and delivers a 2-run homer here in the first.
Glaber hits a high drive to right center. Back goes Blanco on the track, out the wall. She's got him. Into the Yankee bullpen. It's Glaber Day. He drills a 2-run home run.
What a lovely way to finish for a birdie at the last. It's a round of 70. Of course he did.
And with a score of 271, the winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Brian Harmon.
Welcome in on a Monday morning to Coffee and Cream. Neither Andrew Rogers nor Damon Benning are here today. I'm Ravi Lulla, and I am here with the Nebraska Coaches Association Media Person of the Year, Mike Sautter. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I can't hear myself like normal when I sit down.
Yeah, that one's mine. Don't touch that one. That far one should be you.
There we go.
Yeah, you're just not tight.
There we go.
Turned up
I
enough?
just need to turn it up. Turn it up. No, yeah.
So
Shane,
you won an award last night.
Yeah. I won. Well, I received an award. I don't know what. There wasn't like necessarily competition. So yeah, I am blessed, honored. What do the kids say?
Hashtag blessed.
Yeah, when they get an offer from someone to receive the Nebraska Coaches Association Media Person of the Year award alongside of my good friend Taylor Siebert. We both did, and it's a really neat banquet.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of fun and recognize all the coaches throughout the state and contributors and things like that. So first time I've ever been to that banquet. Not a big banquet guy. Most of the time.
Yeah.
I had to prepare some words. I probably should not have prepared words.
Yeah.
But I did because I called before. I was like, hey, am I going to need to say something or not? And I did. And I prepared some very brief comments. And if I wouldn't have prepared, I probably wouldn't have broke down crying in the middle of it when I started talking about my family. So I wish I probably would not have in front of like 300 people. But it was good. It was a good, quick kind of night over there. The food was really good too.
Yeah. Where's the banquet at?
Lincoln.
Oh, it was in Lincoln.
It was in Lincoln at the Haymarket place station.
Place. Okay.
I don't know
what
it was called. I don't remember. So yeah, it was a good time. I had fun. Got to talk to some people that I haven't seen all summer or longer than that. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Hurrdat Sports own Mike Sautter, award winner.
Sure. Yeah.
We are here live at the H&H Chevrolet stage.
Yeah, H&H Chevrolet stage, which, by the way, I got to shout out them for a minute because I am an Onyx Car Wash member.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those people, and I've said this on the show before. I wash my car a lot.
Okay.
Like every Monday.
Oh, so you have a schedule.
Kind of.
Okay, fair.
Every Monday.
You're like DB with his haircuts.
Yeah, kind of. So I wash my car every Monday, today, I guess by the time I get out of here and can get through the car wash, it might be the rain kind of messed up a little bit. But yeah, I'll definitely probably wash my car today and then pack. So yeah, I'm an Onyx person, and yeah, never bought a car from H&H though. Probably should.
I did. I think the first car I ever bought as an adult was from H&H, the old one on 84th.
Yeah, the old one. That was like 2 months ago. Well, it's probably a year.
I'll say it's longer now,
Yeah,
but
I
it's the
know.
place that they were forever off 84th Street, right?
Yeah.
And then I've been looking at. So Onyx is owned by H&H, is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I've been looking at Onyx a little bit. They've got some
nicer
vehicles that appeal to me.
Oh, big money. Big money Ravi over here.
Listen, radio's not my full-time gig.
I know. People would probably think that. No, yeah. So, yeah, we just got off a tangent. This is probably going to be a lot of just randomness.
I mean, it's July and neither of your regular hosts are here, so I wouldn't.
Neither of the regular hosts are here. It's like last part of July. It's football, NFL training camp stuff. Just starting JETS. And yeah,
and I don't think you and I have ever done a full show together.
No,
I don't think we have.
I don't know. Maybe
I was trying to think.
Well, we're gonna for 3 days.
Yes, because I was trying to think to our previous lives.
I
don't think we ever did a full show.
No,
together.
I don't think so.
We've known each other for a while.
Yeah, a long time.
I think Padilla introduced us. Is that right?
Jacob. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you were
still
always
calling Padilla.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's hard. Like you see the name and your brain wants to say it a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were obviously getting started with your high school preps and sports coverage.
Jacob, actually, true story. Jacob's the first person that ever hired gave, I hired him late, I think his junior year of college.
Yeah, at Creighton.
Yeah. He went to Creighton, and the rest is definitely history for that guy.
For sure.
So,
absolutely. One of our
he's on to bigger and better things.
Other colleagues. He'll be hosting on Friday with me.
Oh, will he?
Yep.
Wow.
I've got you Monday through Wednesday. I've got Severe on Thursday.
That'll be fun.
And then
he's hilarious.
I don't know about hilarious.
He's Jacob's definitely not funny.
He actually is funnier than people would think.
He is, but
it's very dry, and you would never.
He will have pages of notes.
Oh, yeah.
Like his notebook will be full of pages.
He is the most prepared person I think I've ever met. No matter what he's doing.
Very much so. In order for him to do 3 hours of radio, he's going to have it'll be a full notebook.
I've done shows with him before.
Have you?
I've done. I did a 4 hour with him a couple times at the old place.
Yeah.
And it went well. That's why I asked him to come back.
Yeah, he's very detailed.
Yeah, he's good to hang out with, and you can get him to loosen up a little bit, which I like.
Can. Well, if you get him going like a little bit upset, like if you can just twinge him a little bit,
you take it up a notch.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm in the group text with him where he disagrees with me a lot.
Oh, well, so. If he disagrees with you,
I know.
Yeah, that's very true.
So him and our old buddy D. Marinas often disagree with
and when they disagree, those two guys, when they disagree, they
get after it.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. It'll be a fun
By the way, it's freezing cold in here.
It is. It's always I should have warned you. It's always cold in here.
Yeah.
No matter how hot it is.
I knew I've got the long sleeve on.
Yeah.
I probably
the pants are the key. You got to wear pants.
Yeah.
It gets really cold in here.
I have shorts on.
Yeah. We'll be all right though. We'll try and keep it warm for a
keep
few
it
hours
hot
here. Keep it hot with the
We're gonna keep it hot.
We're gonna be all right.
No, we'll get to
We're gonna be all right, Doc.
We're gonna be all right.
Is that Doc?
We're gonna be all right, Doc.
It's exciting.
What a gem!
It is Doc. Doc's great.
What a gem that man is.
Doc's a great.
That's totally on me.
It is, Doc. It was for sure.
But no, we've got a lot going on today. We'll have Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald coming up at 8:00. We've got.
Are you guys going?
Jim is it Polzin or Polzin, Shane?
Polzin.
From the Wisconsin State Journal. We're going to talk a lot of Wisconsin today. I know Maryland
good.
is up next in the schedule, but the guys we were able to get, we flip-flop Maryland and Wisconsin. So we'll have Wisconsin today with Jim Polzin, and we will get Maryland tomorrow. And then we're going to talk to Brad Klein about the British Open.
I feel like, well, I didn't watch a lot. It was on the TV.
You were tuning into the Open?
Yeah.
The Open Championship, as they like to call it.
It's nice because it's in the morning. It just is on in the morning.
Yeah.
Like you wake up and turn it on.
I really enjoy events that are happening in like Great Britain and England because, the time that like Wimbledon, I love the time frame Wimbledon's on because you just wake up, it's on. You knock out some sports early in the morning. It's great.
It's kind of like the Women's World Cup right now, where you just it just is overnight-ish, unless they do it on purpose, where they put like the USA women at 8, where it's in the States it's at 7 or 8 or whatever.
They try and make it a reasonable time.
Yeah, they did it on purpose. Yeah, which I watched that, or I guess I don't know if watched. It was on.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sensing a theme here.
Friday night. Yeah, it was on Friday night, and I was actually a little disappointed
in how they looked.
Yeah, not a soccer guy.
Okay,
I just know that at the beginning of I was going to call it match.
There you go.
That the announcer said that Vietnam lost to somebody in a closed door friendly 9-0, and I was like, oh, this could go bad then.
Yeah. It was only, 3-0?
It was 3-0. And it was only
3-0, as they say?
Yeah, it was only 1-0 at half. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I was expecting the margin to be greater.
Yeah. You know who you should have? You know who would be a guest this week to talk about the Women's World Cup? And maybe Wednesday, because I think USA plays tomorrow night. We should have Avery Howard on to talk about the Women's World Cup. Could talk some Husker football too with her.
Shane, you taking notes over there?
Get Avery on the phone. Yeah.
Well, not right now, man.
Not right now.
Yeah, a couple days from now.
Well,
she's probably up. She probably has things to say.
Watching us bamble about right now.
Well, again, this is July Sports Talk Radio. Bambling is kind of the name of.
We'll probably get fired up a little bit.
Listen, there's plenty to talk about. We were talking before.
We could talk about Cody Bellinger.
I don't want to talk about. I appreciate Shane both throwing.
I did love that. I love that.
He gave me the great Justin Turner homer. He gave you the Bellinger homer.
Yeah,
he always does a nice job of throwing me highlights.
I'm just saying the Cubs are on fire right now.
That's
nobody actually cares though.
Anytime you can beat the Cardinals 3 out of 4, it's a great day.
So
right, Rogers? Right, Andrew?
The
Jets are on TV again.
I like Cubs fans more than Cardinals fans. The Cubs fans in my life
are very realistic.
Well, not just very realistic, but they're much more tolerable.
Yeah, like we know we're probably not good ever.
A lot of Cardinal fans are a little insufferable.
Entitled little.
Yes.
Yeah.
They think they're the Yankees.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Yeah.
Like I don't like Yankees fans either because I'm a Red Sox fan. But at least I don't have anything I can say to Yankees
Red
fans.
Sox have been terrible.
Right? Like there's nothing I can say to a Yankees fan because it's like, look at the banners, like whatever. All right, you win.
They're bad this year, boy.
They are bad this year, and I appreciate that. And they haven't been
the Orioles are
super successful in the last decade, which I also appreciate.
It's all right, won a couple
times.
But
yeah, they can point to the outfield wall, and they can point to their little museum, and yeah, I don't have a lot I can say.
Little is true because the whole stadium's little.
But Cardinals fans, come on, guys,
super.
Get up, baby.
You're not special.
Super entitled.
You've had a nice notable franchise. But you're not special.
Andrew.
Not a Pujols guy. That was like a visceral reaction. That came from your soul.
Cubs fan. Just whatever, man.
I
love how Pujols left for all the money. Like he left just for money.
Sure.
That was the only reason. And then had to come back after he sucked.
Also, probably did not consider the cost of living difference between Missouri and LA.
Pretty big.
Because I'm not sure there's a number that they can throw you that makes up for that.
Pretty big difference.
I don't know if you know this. The housing market in St. Louis hasn't exactly been booming.
Yeah, it's a little different.
You could probably get a nice little place for what he was making with the Cardinals.
It's a little different. I don't know. Andrew Rogers is a St. Louis guy.
He's a St. Louis guy. Yeah, Cardinals fan.
I'm pretty sure he's a suburban St. Louis guy, so it's a little different.
It is a little different. There's a different vibe there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't spent a ton of time in St. Louis, but I had a buddy that went to law school there, so I've been there a handful of times.
Yep. Yeah. We say law school in St. Louis.
It's WashU. Yeah. And so I went there a handful of times to visit him and things like that. And WashU's like in the city though.
Yeah.
Yeah. We weren't like on the suburbs.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know about that suburb.
Lindenwood is in the suburb.
Yeah. Which is where Andrew, I think, went to school, was Lindenwood.
Was it?
I think so.
I've been there twice in my life.
Never been to Lindenwood.
Jerry Mullen's basketball camp. So.
Never been to Lindenwood.
It's nice.
Yeah.
For a D2, well, it was D2, but for a D2, it's really nice.
We were having a conversation on, I don't know if we're going to have time to get to it, but we were having a conversation on Friday when you stopped in, off air, I think.
You and I?
Yeah, where we were talking about, and Lindenwood being a D2 reminded me of this. We were talking about some of the guys that get recruited.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And sometimes they want to wait around, see if they can get a Division I offer. Sometimes the NAIA guys want to wait around and get a Division II offer. And I think this is a really interesting thing that maybe not a lot of people are aware of, in the sense of basically any of those offers below D1 come with a number attached. Whether it's a percentage, whether it's a dollar amount,
right?
They come with a number attached.
Right, 100%.
All scholarships are not created equally.
Yeah, people don't understand that, I don't think.
I really don't think they do.
So same thing, FCS football and
anything below the high major.
Anything below FBS, which is.
But if you're in basketball, anything below Division I,
yes,
right? Mm-hmm. And so, and honestly, even a lot of the kids going through the process, it doesn't seem like
they don't until they actually get
until they get an offer letter or they have a conversation with a coach, and it's like, hey, I'm offering you a scholarship. It's 50%, and they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
they think you get a scholarship offer, you're taken care of, and at the Division I level, that's true, right?
Yes.
And we can get into this. We've got a few minutes left here before break, but we can get into this later on in the first hour here too. I find it really interesting when kids make a decision. Who was the example you gave on Friday? The kid that went to NAI that probably could have waited for D2 offers in basketball.
Oh, Connor Milliken.
Yeah, Connor Milliken, right? I think it's really interesting because that Connor Milliken obviously really understood the process.
100%.
In terms of he chose the best fit for him rather than what on paper maybe looked like the most prestigious offer.
Wanted to play right away, wanted to be a guy right away, didn't want to really have to wait around. Like, he could have played Division II for sure, but he had, he just found the right kind of fits for him.
Right.
And just
and
focused
the
on
money
that.
part of it.
And the money part of it was probably pretty good
because I only know this because I coached at essentially the NAIA level. And so we would give some kids pretty close to a full ride, as much as we could, right?
Right.
Talking about 90% of tuition, like really high end scholarships. And then we're giving other guys 20, 30%, right?
Right.
Because basically the way it works, if you're a coach or an institution, most of the time you have a mark you have to meet.
Right.
And all you have to
number of people that
is, number of people you can get in, but also like percentage of tuition rate that you have to hit, right? Yeah. I think ours was like 52%. So between our highest paid guys and our lowest paid guys, we had to find an average of like 52%.
Yeah.
And then you get like academic money, which doesn't really count. And you have all these other factors, right? But to keep it simple, we'll go with athletic money. And so if Connor, for example, and I don't know what his numbers look like, right? This is just an example. If he was getting 90% from a really good NAI school, but was only going to get offered 30% from a Division II school, that's something that I don't know that a lot of kids understand.
They don't.
Is happening. And certainly the families don't.
Yeah, no, they don't. I think a lot of people think Twitter and whatnot, like your kid says, I get offer or whatever. Well, they're not all the same.
No.
And parents don't understand that until they go through the process. I think that's pretty fair. Like I don't know why the expectation is higher than what it is. From maybe it's just because uneducated on it.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you haven't gone through the process, why would you know?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You know, unless you
I guess
do
you
what
should
we
have coaches and stuff help out. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know how many of the high school coaches know.
I don't know. I feel like more and more are getting involved in.
But I think there was a time not that long ago where high school coaches maybe didn't totally grasp the economics of smaller college sports.
Yeah,
either.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
You know, and that's, again, not a knock on the college coaches. Why would they know if it's not something, or high school coaches, if it's not something they've gone through? But I think it's really interesting, and I guess I'm trying to perform like a public service here. Like I want people to know,
right?
Like I want to, because I spent so much time trying to explain to recruits and their families and things like that. It's like, yes, you have a scholarship offer. There's still 50% left.
Yeah, you're not going to Midland or Doane or, some Concordia or something like that, and
for free,
not paying a dime.
Right?
Yeah, that is the odds of that are. I would like to know if there is anyone.
There's
like that.
There's a kid that we ended up basically footing the bill on entirely.
Yeah, it's very rare.
It's incredibly rare because the budget of it just doesn't work out.
No, yeah,
right.
That's very rare.
And with a lot of the smaller schools, and I don't think people understand this either, is so at the Division I level, most scholarships are funded, so they come from an endowment, right? So someone is still paying for the scholarship,
right? Yeah.
At a lot of the smaller schools, it's just a discount.
Yeah, there's not.
So there's no one like footing the bill still. They're just charging you less to get you to come play sports there
because they
value the contributions that you could bring, and they need to get people in the door, right? And so that's the other thing that I think there's a total disconnect on is there's very few smaller schools or below the Division I level schools that have endowments that cover athletic scholarships.
Yeah, it's not. It is.
There's some that cover academic scholarships.
Yeah, it's extremely rare.
Incredibly rare. So if you get a scholarship from a smaller school, they're just giving you a discount. That's what we called it. The number that I was talking about, the 52%, was our discount rate, is what it was called.
Yeah, you don't have.
Because there was no endowment, right? And so it almost, I don't want to say it means more, but if a NAI school is giving you a 90% scholarship, they obviously believe
they really
what
like you
bringing to the table.
Yes, 100%.
It's harder for them to offer you 90% than it is for Division I to offer you a full scholarship.
Yeah, you're not. With seconds here, but you are very much so a top priority if they give you an NAI school gives you that much
level.
Yeah, you're very much their guy.
You are absolutely.
And they probably can't wait around very long for that either.
No, because they probably offer one of those a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe one every couple years.
If they lose out on that guy, then
they aren't going to have a lot of caliber to stay competitive.
And you're not going to be able to,
And you can't just wait around for it. We'll get into maybe that a little bit more later on. That's Mike Sautter. I'm Ravi Lulla. This is Coffee and Cream, Hurrdat Sports, and AM 590.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
We're going to spend this year understanding what we have in place. And then I'm sure that'll come up. The commanders, the name of the team will come up eventually. But right now, we got enough work to do, and that will keep us busy.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream here at the H&H Chevrolet stage. Mike Sautter here with me today. I'm Ravi, Lulla. I think Andrew and Damon are back next week. I don't know. Nobody's told me. If I get a call that I have to host again, I'll be here, I guess. But
yeah, the Commanders are definitely got a lot of work to do.
They do. I think they're going to change their name, but we don't know.
What should it be called? What would you name the Commanders?
Well, I came up with some ideas last week that people didn't love.
Wow.
I was mostly joking.
Oh,
I said they should be the Washington Wildebeests.
that's dumb.
See, that was the
That's
common
pretty
reaction.
dumb.
Shane said they should be the DC Dragons, which I kind of like.
They're not changed. It's probably not gonna be DC. It will definitely be Washington.
Well, I like it. I like the DC Dragons. What do you think?
I don't know.
Well, over here shooting down people's ideas.
I think your own. I was. I don't know why I thought of this. I really don't. It just popped in my head right now. But like the Lincolns or something, it has to be something to do with like government or presidents or army or something.
Yeah, but how can you sell that logo though? I mean, to kids and stuff like that.
That's true. You gotta make it fun. Gotta be fun.
Yeah, no 10-year-old kid's gonna want to wear a shirt that has a gavel on it or something.
Judges.
Yeah,
the Washington Judge
the Supremes.
I mean, that's a great name. It's a great group.
I could say something, but I probably should not about team names around.
Well, you know what
here.
I'm going to say? We're going to say
Nighthawks.
I'm going to say that we are brought to you by the Beanery.
Yes,
you get your coffee at the Beanery.
Great
4
coffee from there.
great
I have
locations:
a mug from there.
Gretna, Papillion, Ashland, and their newest location off of 168th and Giles. You can also rent a coffee truck.
I didn't know that.
Have them come out. info@thebeanery.com. Locally owned and operated. They roast all their own coffee, serving people coffee, iced, hot, frozen specialty. They got some food, muffins, breakfast sandwiches, whatever you could possibly want. The Beanery.
I've been to the Beanery in Ashland before.
I'll take it.
Yes.
I used to live in Ashland.
Whoa. It's a high rent district over there right now.
It wasn't. Well, it depends on where you live.
Just saying.
If you live in like old Ashland,
you're trying to find a house over there.
If you live in like Old Town Ashland, it's not expensive. You're talking about like the outer.
No.
The outer Ashland area.
As someone who is moving on Thursday, I looked basically everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would have been okay. It's not that far. A little drive.
What's that? I didn't love it. It was a long drive for me.
Not that far.
I was working downtown at the time. It was about a 45-minute drive to work every day, which I didn't love.
Nobody can do that.
So
a lot of people do that.
It's just not for me. The 45 minutes is aggressive for me.
It's good schools, great people over there.
If you're from a bigger city, you're like, 45 minutes, whatever. That's every day.
Whatever the hell it is.
For me, it was a lot. I wasn't a huge fan. But that's all right, So I'm learning a lot about you.
So Commanders.
I'm done with the Commanders.
You don't want to talk about.
I mean, unless you have a nickname.
I don't know. It's got to be something to do with.
Yeah, you got to tie it into the city. Yeah,
the monuments.
Like I didn't mind the that's like there's statues out there running. Like
you just have the Washington Monument on your helmet. That's it. It's just we're done.
Something like that. But I think it's got to be something.
Yeah, you got
similar.
Tie it into the city.
Like I mean, Generals has been taken. I like that. Like
Generals isn't bad. I mean, you could go old school baseball, like the Washington Senators.
Yeah,
it's not a great name, but at least you got some historic ties there.
Washington Representatives.
The Reps.
You have I was going to go political on you, but I'm not.
We got 3 more days of this.
Could have had a picture of some people on there and just rotate it.
Let's move on. We'll stay in the NFL, though. So
look at that catch. Oh, man, I've watched that.
We might need to change the channel.
Andrew Rodgers.
Not Andrew Rodgers.
Definitely not.
He did not make that throw.
The Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson catch in the back.
So how did you become a Jets fan? How did that happen?
I'm still watching this catch. Can we just look at that sidearm throw? Oh my gosh. I know it makes for great radio, but fingertip catch in the back of the end zone, 2 feet down. Yep. Garrett Wilson's that dude. How did I become a Jets fan?
Yeah. How did that happen?
I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time. My brother's older than me. Everyone in Tulsa is a Cowboys fan or Chiefs a little bit, but basically a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to be one of those because my brother is a Cowboys fan.
Sure.
Still is for some dumb reason, because why would you be? Anyway, I was not going to be a Cowboys fan.
Sure, understandable.
So the Jets and the Bills were playing on TV once, like 5th grade, 6th grade.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know how, it was the local, game on CBS. And I watched that game and I rooted for the Jets in that game, which they lost probably because they lost a lot back then. And I just decided that day, I'm like, yep, that'll be my team.
Okay.
And that's how I became a Jets fan.
Fair enough.
Have been ever since. I've been a New York Jets fan ever since that day. And let me tell you what, when they win, you are going to hear about it.
Yeah. Because it doesn't happen a ton.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. It's kind of like my Cubs fandom. I'm not as much of a Cubs fan, like as I am as a Jets fan. Jets are my ride or die number one, no question.
Okay.
Like I will go to the grave with the New York Jets.
Okay.
Right. So it's very similar though. Just win one time. If you win one time in my life, if I see that,
you're good.
I will be good.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
That's
if they
fair.
won Super Bowl, because they've only won one in the history
Ever
of the NFL,
yeah, famously.
and I wasn't alive for that. And I'm 43.
Yeah,
yeah.
You'll be that guy in like 2052 that's wearing the Super Bowl 56 Jets T-shirt still.
50 is that this year? 56?
Yeah. What?
Are they winning the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Let's go.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's go.
You're going to be wearing that.
Let's go.
You're going to
Shane.
be wearing that gear 30 years later.
Let's do it. I will say this. Let me tell you something.
I mean, wearing 30-year-old championship gear is a time-honored tradition in Nebraska. So
that's why
yes,
I
was just going to say that. I was just going to say that. People still have their T-shirts and wear them around.
I would say I've got 95 Husker gear. Like it doesn't fit me because I was a child.
I will show you. I have memorabilia.
Oh yeah,
moving houses right now. This week,
like
actually,
finding
on
all your
Thursday,
stuff.
I went through like the box in the back of the closet thing last night. I just dug through his like college photos and all that stuff and pictures of old girlfriends, which I don't know why I still have them. My wife was like, "What?" She was not
thrilled about that.
No, but I not at all. But I have
a small oversight on your part.
I have the. I didn't throw them away though. It's weird.
You should. At this point, you should have thrown them away.
But the Wheaties box, the unfinished business stamp Wheaties box, with Nebraska on it, I have that still in. Like the Wheaties are out of the box, obviously.
Yeah.
But I still have the box, and it's just sits in a box. That along with Michael Johnson, remember the track runner guy?
I used to collect the Wheaties
so
boxes.
Me too.
Yeah.
So I have that one of him.
I had a bunch of the Olympic ones from that year from '96. Yeah.
And then I have like the women's gymnastic team one.
Yep.
I have an NFL at 75 years one, a silver one.
Yeah.
I have that one. I have another one.
I had a Ken Griffey Jr. one I really, really liked.
I don't have that.
The Ken Griffey Jr. one was cool. I have the
I kept I remember keeping the cereal in it for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, yeah, you probably should.
So my mom made me eat the cereal because she wasn't just going to waste food.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you can keep the box, but you have to eat the cereal.
Right.
And I was like, fair enough.
I still have that.
But I was really excited when I think it was the Ken Griffey Jr. one. I know she normally would only get me the regular Wheaties, like not the frosted or anything like that. And that was fine because mostly that's where the athletes came on. But I believe the Ken Griffey Jr. one was on a frosted Wheaties. So I was pumped to get to eat frosted Wheaties that week. I was very excited.
Yeah. So I have still in, and I sent a picture to Damon and he was like, give me that basically. I told him why, so you could sign it. But I still have the Sports Illustrated.
I've got
1994. This one.
I've got that one, and I've got 95
in a sleeve, still in the sleeve, and then I have this one with T.O. on it.
I've got that one, and then there's one with Tommy Frazier.
Found that one
the next year,
and then I have the '97 Fiesta Bowl program.
Ooh, nice! I don't have anything from '97.
None of those have really ever been opened. I don't think. Nice. Actually, I don't think I've ever cracked them open. I just put them in there. Yeah.
Coming up next, more tales from Mike Sauter's moving adventures right here on Coffee and Cream in the morning.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream in the morning. Ravi, Lulla here with Mike Sautter. I have been informed.
I'm just trying to stay alive.
Our fearless leader, Sasha, has informed me that Andrew Rogers and Damon will be back next week. So she texted me after I said that. She goes, yes, they will be back. I was like, all right, cool.
Isn't there a drop, thank you, dear baby Jesus or something?
But we've got random Mike on the phone.
There is now.
Mike, how are you today?
Hey, guys. I've been meaning to ask Sautter this because this guy blew me away because I hadn't seen him play quarterback. And I'm watching the Westside Millard South game, and I'm wondering what he thought of Cam Kozel and what he thinks if at Vanderbilt the possibility that he might be their best quarterback as well as a fantastic baseball player. And what if he decided, hey, I'm going to try to play both?
I think baseball is his only future. He is. I think I don't know this, but I would imagine he would have been drafted if his slot, number would have been right.
Mm-hmm.
He can really hit the baseball. I think he's just, baseball is his number one thing, and I think he played football in high school just to do it and help Millard South out and be that guy. I don't see him playing football beyond his senior year of high school. I'd be a little bit shocked that if Vanderbilt would let him do that, because he's such a high level prospect, I guess, if you will.
It's so valuable to the baseball team.
Yeah. It would be something, I know guys, like Bryce Matthews and whatnot tried to do it. But it's pretty hard to do.
It's really, really hard.
Especially those two sports. But Cam's a great kid, and he's got a pretty bright future, I think, as long as he can really hit the ball, and that's all you kind of need to do. I'll be interested to see what he does at Vanderbilt as far as baseball. I think he probably moves to second base as the talk rather than short.
Because he's a little undersized, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But he can really rake, and I will never, ever in my life forget the home run he hit in the state championship game 2 years ago that went over the UNO scoreboard. He crushed that thing. It was a grand slam, gave them the lead late. They ended up losing the game on a walk-off, but it was, and they never found the baseball. And I asked Cam about 5 times, and like even a year later, I asked him, hey man, like no one ever found that ball? Really? Still? No one ever found it. I think it went in like the little culvert ditch thing they had over there, and it was crushed. That was one of the most exciting things I've ever seen.
Did you see the Millard Southwest Side football game?
I think I was there. I'm pretty sure he could really run and use his legs. It's interesting. So Gage Stenger was the quarterback before Cam, right? And very similar kind of styles. Just use their legs a lot to wait for their guys to get open or make plays. That game was pretty exciting. I remember. Now that you bring it up, I do remember being there, and he used his legs to stay alive a lot. Really good athlete, obviously, and was one of the, I guess, finalists for Athlete of the Year, if you will. So, yeah, I was there. I do remember that game, and there was a play, if I remember right, there was a play that I want to say it was about 40-yard line going into, to score, and I want to say he ducked a guy, and he broke like 5 or 6 tackles, and then just sling one to the corner or something like that, right in front of the end zone. Yeah,
right. It might have been certainly one of the plays of the year. But what blew me away was the strength of his arm. And I did talk to his coach, and he said he could throw it 65 yards. So the thing that separated him from me was not just his legs. Obviously, he's a little undersized, but he's real strong. But the strength of his arm. And it was kind of a Flutie Murray thing where these little guys got the great arm as well as the legs. And,
right.
It was just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I was blown away by his talent.
He's also,
I'm sure you're right. He'll only play one.
He's also a pretty good, like his human being matters, I guess, to me when I say that. When I say they're a good kid, that's what I mean. He's a pretty good kid. Like really.
That's what they all say.
Yeah. Really grinder and focused. And he'd show up to like basketball games and be in the front row and stuff and cheering on his former or his teammates or classmates and whatnot. So but I do think he's probably just I think baseball's his
I'm sure that's what it'll probably be. But he was fun to watch. Hey, take care, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Mike loves Cam Kozel.
Yeah,
which I totally understand. He's an incredible athlete.
He had I watched him.
Guy.
I watched him play baseball a few times this year, and he had a little bit of, he had a couple errors and stuff that wasn't normal, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
What I expected, but he can hit. He can really hit.
And that's kind of what you see in a lot of these.
And that's why I think he was playing short in high school. I think he's gonna.
A lot of these guys that they focus so much on the hitting part of the game and that part of their craft, because that's the ticket, right? Like that's your ticket out, or to go to wherever you want to go. And a lot of them they just figure out the defense later. They find a spot to put them. They find a spot where they can just get the bat in the lineup.
I would tell you now that we're talking about it, Cale Fountain's going to be a draft pick.
Yeah.
Like he's committed to LSU, which when he did that, he committed to Florida State as a freshman or before his freshman year, then decommitted after Florida State made the coaching change, and then committed to LSU. He is raking right now, and like all the perfect game things he's going to, and everything he looks the part.
Yeah,
like his frame is perfect for like what you look at. A major league prospect, he's that guy. He can really hit, and he's multi-position guy. Can play both corners, can pitch a little bit, can play the outfield. Yeah, Cale Fountain and Norris is you better go watch him play next year, because he's gonna. I'm just guessing. I did see something that he was a projected first round pick to the Yankees, like 17th or something. That's not dang good.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, especially
your first round pick out of high school in Nebraska. That's probably never happened, I'm guessing.
It has happened. Not first round pick. I know these guys been drafted.
Yeah,
first round pick.
First round high schooler, you're a dude. Like it's really
we gotta go
hard
Greg
to do.
Olson, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I bet Greg Olson was.
Major League Baseball.
But yeah, you're talking about a very rarefied group of guys coming out of Nebraska. A lot of guys obviously have ended up playing in the pros. A handful of first round draft picks out of college.
Yeah, I'm talking straight
out of high school, first round draft pick. You might be going back to Greg Olson out of Northwest. Which is imagine. Crazy.
Yeah,
I mean that's a long time ago, and
this is something Damon would probably know off the top of his
probably.
Because
that's the one I can think of that it would be the other one, but
Northwest connection too. But
I don't know if there's been one since. I mean, I went to school with some great baseball players in Millard North, and like Connor Gillespie ended up playing with the Giants for a long time, and he was a supplemental first rounder after his time at Wichita State. His little brother Casey Gillespie was a first rounder after his time at, I believe, also Wichita State. So you have some first rounders from the state, but not straight out of high school. That's pretty rare.
I think it's pretty rare,
but
it's unbelievable.
I don't know. I've always thought the baseball talent in the state was better than maybe people realize.
If you look like, if you want to do the whole per capita thing, you can either volleyball or baseball has the most Division I prospects.
Yeah, and it's been that way for a while. Baseball has been putting guys consistently in Division I for a long time.
There's a caveat, and I hate to do this, but the caveat is like it's partials, right? So
sure, yeah, absolutely. It's a different.
You can kind of.
It's a different.
We'll give you 0.2 of a scholarship is kind of like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're totally right. There is again, it's like we were talking about earlier with NAI and Division II scholarships. There is a spectrum of how much you're actually getting. Guys that are projected draft picks and things like that, they're tending to
come in more. Yes.
Yeah, they're tending to get closer to full scholarships, if not full scholarships. But because what's the limit in baseball? It's like 13 scholarships for the whole roster. Mm-hmm. So if you average that out, most guys are getting like less than 50%.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's like 0.2, 0.3, something
which is
like
crazy, and that probably needs to be a rule change. Because it's
I don't understand.
Pretty outdated number at this point because that number hasn't changed for a really long time.
Yeah. I know they've tried. Getting the third paid coach
assistant was
big. I think it's moving in the direction.
And I think the scholarship number is the next thing on the college baseball Division I docket. But Nebraska's pretty consistently put out pretty good high school baseball talent and a lot of them have performed at the next level as well. You were talking about the home run that Cam Kozel hit. I think that
was amazing.
I think the furthest ball I ever saw hit in high school was Darren Ruff while he was playing at Westside.
See that?
There was a tournament out at Millard West.
Yeah.
And I think he cleared Q Street.
No
way.
He definitely got it to Q Street.
Yeah.
And
I forget who
it's
hit.
the furthest ball I think I've ever seen.
I forget who hit one, but I was at Millard West for a baseball game this year, and it definitely went on to Q Street.
It got to the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. This Darren Ruff one definitely got to the street. And if it bounced right, it might have cleared it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it got to the street for sure. It was
I'm sure they've seen some balls hit over
an absolute bomb.
Another guy, Tyson Lewis, Millard West, is going to be a dude too. Committed to Arkansas, shortstop for Millard West. He will have a chance to be drafted out of high school as well.
There you go. Some good high school talk there. Appreciate Random Mike calling in. Coming up next, we're going to be talking to our friend Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald to kick off hour number 2 right here on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. That kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream. Ravi, Lulla here with you with Mike Sautter. We are filling in for Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. And we are joined now by Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you today?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much. We've got Big Ten Media Days coming up this week. I'm sure in your time as a journalist, you've been to a fair share of these types of deals over the years. I guess, what are you hoping to learn when you go to these things? Because at least from my standpoint, it seems mostly like a lot of fluff, but I'm curious if you go there with some sort of expectation on being able to get something out of it.
You always try to, maybe get a little something out of the experience that you wouldn't normally get, in a practice environment. You get a chance to see the head coach, and the players interact with media that aren't your own, which actually tends to be a good thing, because within the confines of local media, we have a tendency to feel like we already know everything, and so we don't ask obvious questions. And media from out of town does, because they don't know anything. And so last year we learned, that Garrett Nelson wants his coach to be happy, and some professor made fun of Adrian Martinez, and Scott Frost didn't want to be there and was kind of a pout, and we learned things that then carry over into the season. And so you pick up on things. Sometimes you're surprised what you pick up on and what you think you'll get. But anytime you're in an environment like that, you're always going to see some interactions that you don't normally see. So it'll be interesting from that perspective. I don't go in with any specific kind of, and I shall learn this from the event. But yeah, you always come away with something, as it turns out.
Sam, what is the one crazy storyline that might happen or might just surface this week from media days? Because in regards to Nebraska, because there seems to always be Nebraska drama storyline happen at media, or I guess in the last regime there was always one.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be any. I think it'll be fairly calm under Matt Rule. I think he'll make a strong impression. I don't think he'll piss anybody off with his comments. I think he'll probably keep it in the fairway, so to speak. I think that'll be true. None of the players have ever. The last time a player made waves was in 2014. Kenny Bell said something about not being able to pay his electric bills.
Yeah.
And players should get paid and stuff like that. And obviously, in the NIL universe that we have today, Kenny Bell would have been able to pay his electric bills.
Just a little bit.
He would have had some commercials.
He would have been
great. I mean, Kenny was awesome. I like Kenny. I like him still. But I think that was the last time anything really whoa. Although last year Garrett Nelson said the stuff that he said, and as you said it, I'm like, that wasn't the best thing to talk about here. I think under Scott, the program had become very, feeling self-pity, and it wasn't a great feel or a look, and of course they could kick my rear end 6 ways to Sunday, but within the context of the team, they felt sad. It wasn't that they were angry, but it's that they felt bad. And I thought that was kind of an odd vibe, and that clearly carried over into the season, because they played horribly in their first 4 games of the year. They went 1-3 in those games, and they played pouring out all of them. And then they started, once everybody kind of got let go, then they started, getting outside of themselves a little bit and getting a little bit of confidence. But it took a while, right, to get there. So, yeah, I mean, I think there was, we'll see if there's any. I don't think there'll probably be any. Matt Rule's going back to the Big Ten. I think that's interesting. He doesn't talk about it much, but it's where he played.
Yeah.
And the boss who hired him at Temple is now the AD at Penn State. And in the offseason, I wanted to talk to Pat Kraft about Matt Rule, about what he saw in Matt Rule at Temple. And he declined the interview. And it wasn't because he doesn't like Matt Rule. I think there's just a sensitivity there about Matt Rule's at Nebraska.
Right.
And it's not going to be about Matt Rule. Would Matt Rule go to Penn State? Like that. That's just not in the cards. Now, James Franklin's probably not going anywhere. I mean, I think he's probably sticking around Penn State. I think the job that he's always been rumored to leave for was USC.
Yeah.
I think he's going to leave for that job because the guy in the job's not going anywhere.
No.
And so, but there's a little bit of whatever around that. And Rule has always been really, he's smart about it. Like he's not going to sit there and talk about, his time at Penn State and he didn't spend a ton of time there, but he kind of grew up in the city for a couple of days, a couple of years as a teenager. So he's real familiar with the program, and we'll ask him about it. But we'll, I don't really know what'll come of that. But that might be a question that comes up.
We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, you mentioned that Kenny Bell story, and it kind of just got me thinking. That wasn't, I get it's 9 years ago now, but that wasn't that long ago. And in the world of NIL, which we've been in for the last couple of years, it at least in my mind, I kind of have this tendency to forget that it hasn't always been this way. Do you ever just kind of sit there and think, like, does it take you a minute to remember, like, oh man, college sports was really, really different not that long ago?
A little bit. I think it's in some ways it's very different, and in some ways it's not. Like, I think the players still kind of relate to each other and to their coaches in very similar ways. There's a little bit more money involved, but the old, the money's going to change them. Yeah, it really hasn't. I think there's probably somebody out there in college football who makes so much money that it does change them. And I don't really know exactly how all the dynamics work financially. I don't know that people are making as much money as people say they are, but things have changed, but also in some ways they're not different. What's really changed, and Nebraska football's not very good. And that's what's changed. Like, you go back in 2014 when Kenny was there, and Nebraska was a contender in the West. Nobody thought they were going to the college football playoff in year one. That was year one of the college football playoff. Nobody thought that. But I think a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, I mean, this team could play for the Big Ten title. And, Ohio State's going to be there. And first year of the West, Nebraska's going to win the West. I mean, there's no thoughts like that right now. I think that's what's really changed. If you go back to Bo's last team, boy, there's some talent on that team. And there were some football players, and not that there aren't on this one too, but a lot of them are transfers, and that's what changed. I'll tell you what changed is the portal. The portal has changed more than NIL, because I think the kids actually handle the money pretty well, but the portal has changed. So you don't really get to know some of the players the way that you used to. They're there, they're gone, they're on to another school. In the case of Casey Thompson, guys just kind of come in and come out. I think the players have to adjust. It's really striking in college basketball, even more than college football, because there's fewer players on a roster. I think the transfer portal has changed things, and I'm pretty steadfast on this. They have to do something more about that. People have spent too much time wringing their hands over NIL and not enough time on the transfer portal. If you change the rules of the transfer portal, you will alter NIL. If the athletes don't get to move around with total freedom, then NIL will become more structured too. And for whatever reason, they haven't addressed the portal, because Congress doesn't care about the portal.
No.
They just care about the money. So, like, they need to address the transfer portal and make it a more structured environment. Whatever that looks like. In the first 2 years you're out of school, you don't get a free transfer, or you have to be at a school for at least 2 years, and then you can transfer wherever you want. Like, you have to create a system that doesn't allow schools, notice what I said there, schools to push out guys that don't immediately get it, because that's part of what's happening. Is that programs are they're just cycling through players. They're like, well, we're going to bring this guy in kind of like as a free agent, and it doesn't work, and so let's go find him somewhere else to go and see ya. And I don't like that. I think that's a bad system, and I think you need to fix the transfer portal in a way that reduces the incentive to do that.
But can I play the kind of devil's advocate with you here? What do you do about that? So, yes, fix the transfer portal. I agree. Something needs to be done. But the old talking will never change is, well, coaches can move and come and go as they please. Why can't players? So how do you balance that talk?
You can build a rule set around that.
Like exceptions.
Right. Like they have now, or like they used to.
You can. And I think you can build some frameworks that allow student athletes to move around a little bit. Currently, if you have a coaching change at any time during the calendar year, a student athlete has 30 days to go into the portal. And you know what? West Virginia basketball, I think 3 or 4 players went in.
Right.
But like Northwestern, how many have gone in so far? Not that many.
No, I was going to ask you about that. That it seems a little surprising, actually.
Just timing of it, like
where
are they going to play this year if they leave now?
There's nowhere to. Everyone already has a roster.
Right. What I'm more concerned with, and what I see more frequently, is, and I'm not talking about Casey Thompson's transfer. That's different. If you're on the back, to me, what I see a lot of is team signs 27 players in a class, then they add 10 transfers. There's no way they can carry all those scholarships, even with NIL rules, and people misunderstand that stuff anyway. You have to be like a 4th or 5th year guy to get off of stuff, and anyway. And you just see these players leave, and you're like, well, what Deion Sanders did. Deion Sanders ran players off. Like, it wasn't like a, hey, I'm coming in and you guys can figure out what to do. Like, there's no way all those players were just like, yeah, I don't want to play for this guy. Like, it was, you're not going to play. You have to go now. And we're going to use the transfer portal as a means of telling you to go away. And I don't like that piece. Like, you shouldn't be able to do that to a student athlete in the first 2 years of their time in school, and they shouldn't be able to leave. I think that would be what I would say, is that, like, you got to give it 2 years, and then what you start to do is the coaches are like, well, we got this guy for at least 2, and if we have him for 2, we might have him for 4. So we need to recruit more diligently, and this is especially true in basketball. We need to recruit in a way that we're not just bringing this guy here so he can fill out our practice roster for a year, and then if it doesn't work out, we can send him to, we can hook him up with UC Davis or, UC Santa Barbara or whatever, or Texas State. We'll get you another place, but you didn't work out for us, that kind of thing. And that's happened a lot in certain teams and sports, and I don't love that.
Sam, could you make the argument, though, that type of rule would prevent certain guys from getting opportunities at higher levels of college athletics that they maybe wouldn't have gotten a shot if coaches knew, hey, we have to keep this guy for 2 years. We can't really afford to take a flyer on certain guys?
I don't know. I would be... I don't know. I'm not sure that it's possible that could happen. you certainly could have situations like that. But, you know, in terms of rulemaking, I think you always have to balance competing interests against each other.
Sure.
And I think what I would say is that most coaches aren't that involved in NIL. They kind of are, but they kind of aren't. I think the thing that really vexes them is the portal. Like that, and you can say, and we are currently in a moment where coaches have money, coaches have power. We don't like people with money and power, so whatever they say, we have to be against. And I get it, but that also defies the internal logic of a team sport, which is teams are best comprised of people who are around each other for more than 9 months.
Yeah.
And so, like, team dynamics are better suited to teams that have cores for a period of time, and that's even true in professional sports. And so I think as it relates to college sports, even if we think the coaches have too much power and money, which I think they do, it doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong about the portal. And so if you ask me what's really changed, that's really changed. The portal has changed the sport more than NIL has. I think NIL has actually gone pretty well. It hasn't. People are. I don't think there's probably as much money as people say, and I also think that the athletes have generally handled the money pretty well. Well, look at that. We can trust the 19 and 20-year-olds. You know, they didn't go out and fritter it away or stand for the wrong things or advertise with the wrong companies. For the most part, they've been really responsible. And so I don't think we need to freak out about NIL. I do think there needs to be a fix in the portal somehow, some way.
To the coaches part, and primarily in basketball, I think, like you said, is with the portal is it partly because the expectations are win now and you have to win right now, and you can't build a program like, let's say, Matt Painter has at Purdue that is pretty dang comfortable, and yes, takes transfers but doesn't need to, right? If he doesn't have to, is that, do you think the expectation of fan/administration puts that pressure on coaches to win as soon as possible, which means, okay, we're going to just try and get the best portal kids we can?
I think each situation is a little different. I think in football, I don't really think that the heavy portal model has worked in many examples when measured against the failures. So Michigan State was successful. Well, look at what happened after that.
Yeah.
And now, let's be honest, Mel Tucker probably needs to have a winning season. I'm not sure he will.
Yeah.
And some of that, when you do that with the portal, it has cost. And I think it's going to have a cost with Nebraska this season that they leaned so much on portal players last year who are now gone. And so I think each situation is a little bit different. As it relates to Nebraska basketball, I think I have a lot of generosity towards the experience that Fred Hoiberg's had here, and fairness to that. I think the context in which he left the college sport to go to the NBA was very different than the context he returned to, because he was on the leading edge of the transfer portal movement when he left. And when he came back, everyone was doing it. And so part of what happened, I think, is some of the transfers just haven't been very good. And that's okay. That's life. But that's part of the challenge. Like, some of them just haven't been what was expected. And by that, I mean going all the way back to the first year when, you know, they thought they had the best three-point shooter in the Big Ten. And that guy, I think he made like 32%. He didn't play any defense. And so he was a liability on the floor. And he was only here 1 year. So, like, I think part of what's happened there, and Hoiberg's tried very hard, I think, to try to right the ship. I think long term it's going to be very hard to build an NCAA tournament team with any consistency through the portal anymore. They're certainly going to try again this year. I do think Rick Mass is a good addition. It's just, I'm sure if he could do things over again, he might have put a few more high school kids in there. He might have tried to retain a few players
right.
that immediately left. And I'm talking the kid that went to Tulane, Kevin, I can't remember his last name. But, like, you know, I don't think that guy was that bad of a basketball player. But the other thing I would say, and you maybe you agree with this or maybe you don't. So they added a kid yesterday who's 19. It's, you know, great. You know, and maybe he'll be a really good player. Is that kid going to be better next year than Eduardo Andre would have been as a senior, or Oleg would have been as a whatever he was going to be, a junior? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm not always sure what the thought, like what the. I mean, did Oleg just want to leave because he wanted to go to Wyoming so he could start? Which I don't know if he'll start there. That kind of, like, you're just always kind of wondering, like, you know, or even Ivan Udraga. Okay, so granted, he wasn't a good free throw shooter, but you know, he had a Big Ten frame, and he just went to Grand Canyon, and he's still there, and I can't help but think he would have been a better number 3 post last year than Oleg would have. And so, like, there just seems to be this cycle within that program of, let's sign a post, and then he'll leave in 2 years, and like it's just and I just don't know that's the best way to try to handle managing a program. It's not what Creighton does, and Creighton's obviously a better program and had more success and had the advantage of the coach's son being an all-timer, which helped. But you know, Creighton doesn't do that.
Well, if
and they're better.
If Nebraska wouldn't have just relied on one guy to do all their recruiting and handle all that, the situation probably might be a little bit different.
Might be.
And I feel strongly that if this staff that Nebraska men's basketball has in place right now was at the beginning of Hoiberg's tenure, they would be in a much better place. Which
it might be.
I still think they'll be okay. Before we get you out of here, I have to ask about Super 6 because, you know, you and I used to work together on it, and I know how difficult it is to put together, and you're never right? No matter what you do, you're never going to get the 6 correct. Everyone's going to disagree. But this year's really hard. It's got to be really hard to pick that 6, and it's a pretty special group of, I guess, 24 guys in the area. Even if you go to, I don't know, Logan Magnolia High School, and if you reach that far out, but in-state, just in-state in general, you have what, 12 power conference guys. So how do you decipher that? And I know it's coming out probably pretty soon here. So how's that process going right now?
August 20th is when it comes out. Grant Bricks won't be on it, and that's no knock on him. We dip into Iowa when A, we feel like there aren't enough players in Nebraska, and B, historically, and I've went through this, and I think you have too.
Right.
I would prefer if we go into Iowa that it's a high level, high level player, and Grant Bricks is, but I don't know that I put him in the Max Duggan level of like prominence in terms of being a quarterback and stuff like that. Anyway, Grant, if he was in Nebraska, would almost certainly be on it, but this year he is not going to be our Blaze Gunnerson. In-state, yes. So in-state it's really challenging. Certainly in the Metro alone, you have 6 players.
Right.
The way that we've always conceived it, and our former boss Thad always conceived, is you're trying to look for a combination of a high level prospect, but also somebody who's been really good in high school football. I'm sure people can imagine who might be on that, but to be very honest with you, it's been a lot of fun and challenging. I've got it written down on my board in my office, sort of the order, and it'll come out here on August 20th, and it will have names that you recognize, but there will definitely be a debate about whether we pick the right 6, because there are more than 6 who are worthy.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily. This year is probably one of the toughest ones, and I'm glad I'm not a part of it, because I don't want those emails like I got when we picked Max Duggan. I remember that, and I was like, okay, people.
Sam, we appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, take care.
Thanks, man.
That's Sam McKewon from Omaha World-Herald. More coffee and cream coming up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream here at the Hail Varsity Club, the H&H Chevrolet stage. Ravi, Lulla here with you. Mike Sautter as well. We're brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center. Been in business in Omaha for over 25 years, family owned and family run. They always have the latest technology they invest in. They work on all makes and models, 4 locations throughout the metro area, voted first place Best of Omaha for 18 years running. Dingman's Collision Center.
By the way, Andrew Rogers told me that Darcy Dingman has boxes for me if I need them. I might need to call her.
Yeah, you might need to
the moving part.
Might need to get out there.
I don't need to crash my car. I just need it.
Don't crash your car.
These uniform. Can I tell you? I'm sorry.
No,
I
nobody
just saw
cares.
this.
He's
the New York Jets.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Their alternate unis are nice.
Yeah, you're a nerd.
They have the green on the stripe. They should just wear these all the time.
I want to talk about something that Sam brought up.
Okay.
He was very concerned about the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think that's
I think it's
fair.
a reasonable concern to have. I guess my question is for you and
I think you're spot on.
anyone, if they want to chime in, you can give us a call at 888-638-4876. Or you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm at R.A. Lulla. That's at Mike Sautter _ Sautter with 2 T's. But
no D.
Sure.
No D. 2
I
T's.
can play D though.
No D. So my question is, I don't know that the 2-year thing is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea? I mean, because I think the movement is a little aggressive. I've always tended to believe
I mean,
I've tended to believe that eventually it will balance itself out. I don't know if that's true or not, but
it sure doesn't seem like it, right?
I mean, we're only a couple years into the free transfer era.
Yeah, I don't mind the 2-year idea.
And part of the thing that's before you get into it, I'll let you run here for a second. But we also have to remember the extra COVID year, in addition to the implementation of the free transfer rule, has really thrown a wrench into things in a way that was not predictable. So, and especially like you said, with coaches being having more pressure to win immediately than in years past, then getting a guy who's been in college for 5 years and is a 24-year-old is valuable to certain situations.
100%.
Way more valuable a lot of times than a 17, 18, 19-year-old that you don't know what you're going to get. So I think we're kind of in a unique position where it maybe would have started balancing out sooner, but as we get further away from the extra COVID year, things will sort of find an equilibrium. I can understand the argument that they won't, but go ahead.
There's still people with like a COVID year playing.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
And I think there will be next year as well. I think next year is the last
There's
year.
like 26-year-olds playing college basketball.
Yeah, we used to only see that at BYU.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for sure. Utah or BYU. It's tough because I do agree with Sam on it. Something needs fixed. Something needs change, and I'm pro, athlete, player
movement,
and all that. Like I'm fine with it, but something needs to kind of happen when you have so many kids.
It's more chaotic than you would like.
Yeah,
right now,
you have so many kids that enter the portal and either don't find a home.
Yeah. Or they have to drop down a level.
Or two.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, it has turned recruiting just on its head because really there are programs that believe, we're just not even going to take high school players, basketball wise.
Yeah.
Like, we're just not going to take high school guys. We don't need high school guys. We don't need to take high school guys. Why would we take high school guys? Because they just know I will get a portal guy. Well, and we'll fix them in the way that we want them. But at the same time, I look at Purdue was the example I gave to Sam. They build that sucker and their core guys are like the guys they find in high school or Euro or whatever.
And maybe they supplement.
Yeah, and then they supplement with that versus building an entire roster.
You can make the argument Creighton has operated in a very similar manner. They went a little portal heavy earlier in the Big East era while they were trying to upgrade their talent.
Right.
But the last 6 to 7 years,
they've kind of changed it.
Tyshawn, Mitch Ballack, Marcus Zagorowski classes, and then now your Trey Alexander, and Ryan Kalkbrenner class have kind of formed the cores of these last two kind of really
Speaking
good
of Purdue,
runs.
that's a wild recruiting story there too.
Which one?
Kalkbrenner.
Oh yeah,
in Purdue.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it was basically Creighton or Purdue.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and listen, Matt Edey, who was the player of the year,
Zach Edey,
sorry, basically fell into Purdue's lap because they missed out on Kalkbrenner.
That is wild.
And they didn't think, and Edey was a afterthought.
Yeah, he was. Oh, I mean, he was a lesser prospect at the time.
Well, no, and even when he got there, it was like, okay, maybe this guy might be something, whatever. And then he just kept working and developing. He loves the game and all this stuff, and then just bang.
There you go.
That's crazy.
Think
about that though.
That's a wild story.
Think about that. That's from a source on Purdue's basketball roster or team, I guess.
Sometimes sometimes the misses work
That's
out for
wild.
You a little bit.
It's not. I mean, both of them.
I was going to say it's worked out for Creighton too.
Not saying that, but okay. Anyway, back to the crux of the conversation.
Transfer portal.
If you have the 2-year deal, it makes coaches evaluate talent when they're recruiting a lot better.
Sure.
And it makes them work a lot harder.
Yes.
Because
but that's why they don't want to do it.
Yes.
Because it's hard. That's the hardest part of
It's hard.
Evaluating high school talent is the
or
hardest.
Junior college, or even transfer talent. Because right now you can just look at get
transfer
film.
talent's the easiest because
it's super
they
easy.
have a track record at that level.
Yeah, it's super easy.
JUCO is really hard to translate, figure out what translates. High school is really hard to figure out what translates.
Right.
Because you have to not only figure out, okay, can this guy do the things that I think I need him to do, but you also have to figure out, okay, what level of competition was he playing against? What level was he producing against in high school? What does he have now that I can project to turning into what? Because you can't just take a guy and be like, okay, if he's most guys outside of the top 20 prospects in basketball, at least, you have to project, right?
Right.
Even some of the guys in the top 20 are not going to be the thing you need them to be when you offer them a scholarship.
You also look at, in football too, is the same way. It's the minor league part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the mid-low majors are just minor leagues, and coaches more and more are like, yeah, hey, come here. If you
succeed, we'll get you to the next level.
Yeah, we'll help you.
Yeah,
like we'll help
That's
you move
their best recruiting pitch for guys right now is, hey,
come here, we'll develop you into the player
into a high major prospect
might want to be, and then hey, if the timing's right and everything's right, we'll help you move on. We'll find the right place for you.
Yeah,
that's wild, by the way. It works reverse too.
It does.
So high major people were like, hey, it's not working out. We'll help you find a spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got Michigan Lance on the line. Lance, you've got about 90 seconds. What do you got for me?
Hey, good morning, fellas. How y'all doing?
What's up, Lance?
Hey, Mike.
Yo.
Congratulations, man.
For what?
Media Person of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, back in 2010, was that thing called like the Media Man of the Year award?
I have no idea.
That person, people, that stuff looks kind of funny on there. Not saying it has to be man, but it just looks funny.
Yeah.
But hey, you guys are talking about transfer. I missed the tail end of Sam talking. What was he saying? It should be like they're trying to do like a 2-year commitment from a student athlete.
I don't think they're trying to, but that was his maybe suggestion to calm the portal down a little bit.
Right. Well, and then did he talk about it the other way? Like, does that mean the coaches have to keep those players?
That was a question that was also one of the questions kind of that I brought up too. Is the coach movement is going to be the opposite conversation of, well, if coaches can leave, then why can't willy nilly, right?
Well, no, I mean I'm talking about the coach has to keep.
Oh yeah,
players.
yeah.
That's part of the part of the commitment.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I mean, it's not always the kids choosing.
No,
to go.
Yeah, I would say 70-30. It's probably 30%. Yeah, 30%. The player decides to leave, not told he probably needs to find a new home. That's what people don't.
That's what
realize.
needs to be talked about more.
Yeah,
Lance, we appreciate the call. We'll get into it more coming up next here on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes.
Rush, and he said, fires the little pick on the goal line to the 5, to the 10, 15, 20, towards the end of the 30, he's to the 40, towards the end of the 50, 45, 30, 35, 30, he's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5, and the jewelry thief is it. Touchdown, Wisconsin, coast to coast on the pick 6. Badgers at their own 4-yard line.
And Benning.
Rush, and he said, fires the little pick on the goal line to the 5, to the 10.
Rogers and Benning and Damon Benning. 2 minutes.
Pick on the goal line to the 5, to the 10, 15, 20, towards the end of the 30, he's to the 40, towards the end of the 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, he's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5, and the jewelry thief is it. Touchdown, Wisconsin, coast to coast on the pick 6.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream here at Hurrdat Sports at the Hail Varsity Club. Live from the H&H Chevrolet stage. Ravi here with me, Mike Sautter. We're in the next few days for Andrew and Damon. Then Thursday I'll be here with Michael Severe.
You look a lot different when it's just you on the
me?
on the stream.
Shane, it's not working. I got kicked out. It didn't like me anymore.
Got kicked out of the. Well, they probably were tired of hearing you talk about the Jets.
No, it's probably it probably got too cold. My computer probably or something.
It froze up.
It definitely
literally.
I don't know. Everything else is working, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not. Well, maybe it's not.
Well, we'll try and get Sautter back in the stream here, but
no one wants to see my face.
We were talking with Sam and then a little bit with Michigan Lance there about the transfer portal and some of the things we can do, possible, not us personally, but that could be done to sort of fix the situation. And I don't know, I'm a little bit hesitant to make it more restrictive until we see, like I said, what it looks like without the COVID years sort of messing with everything. Part of the thing that I worry about a little bit, and I mentioned this with Sam, and I'm not sure that he thought it was as serious of a concern as I did, but there are a lot of situations, especially later in recruiting cycles, where schools have an extra scholarship spot and they'll take a flyer on a guy that probably wasn't going to get an offer at that level, right? That's a thing that happens reasonably frequently.
Correct.
And do most of those guys end up transferring? Yes.
Like I would say a strong majority.
A strong majority of those guys end up transferring. But I don't think it's impossible or unheard of for those guys to also succeed at that level. Guys that get recruited late in the process. And so I just wonder, and listen, maybe they would have gone to a lower or mid-major program anyway, gotten good and transferred back up. So you can make that argument. But I do think if you make a mandatory 2-year commitment from both sides of those things, that you probably are losing out or costing some of those guys opportunities at higher levels on the front end. Is that a sacrifice you're willing to make? Maybe. And that's, I'm willing to hear that argument because it is a lesser problem than what we're dealing with. And like you said, the strong majority of those guys probably end up at lower levels anyway.
Here's a thing that, what do you do with the junior college transfer?
Yeah, the junior college
maybe has a year left of eligibility or only 2 years left of eligibility. What do you do with that?
You mean in terms of the 2-year rule?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you manage that
part? I think with junior college,
not like the NCAA. Frankly, the NCAA could care less
about
junior college.
Yeah.
Like they could care less.
Yeah,
they really don't care.
And
it's wild.
And the transfer portal has, I think, really damaged junior college recruiting.
Oh,
because
it's also helped.
Okay,
it has damaged it, but it's also helped.
How so?
Because it gets guys bounce back down
to junior college,
or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
definitely has helped. There's a lot more Division I transferring from, I guess, than there used to be going from Division I to junior college basketball wise. Than there has been in the past.
See, because
there's always been that.
I would have thought that because you don't have to sit out anymore, because it used to be a lot of guys would start out at a D1, they'd want to transfer, they'd bounce down and spend their sit out year at a JUCO to try and reestablish their value, and then they'd bounce back up. I would have thought that not having to sit out the year would have made fewer guys want to go the JUCO route, but you're saying it's the opposite.
No, I think there's fewer guys. I mean, fewer guys are going the JUCO route. I think that's fair. What I'm saying is it's certainly helped, at least from people that I've talked to, is it's certainly helped that with the portal, guys are just choosing to go, hey, I'll just go spend 2 years here versus, or a year if I'm a qualifier.
Yeah.
Versus trying to go the prep school route 1 and 2 versus just going and not really knowing what you're going to get yourself into.
So you mean initially
changed.
Coming out of high school,
yeah,
more
some
guys
of that's
to
helped too.
Okay.
Some of that's helped, but it's also helped a lot with just
guys that start
portaling down.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess down a level or down to junior college stuff.
Interesting.
Has certainly kind of opened up those doors a little bit more. Now that's only like first or second year guys that have the eligibility.
Sure, absolutely.
Like they can do that. So what do you do with the
upperclassmen?
Yeah,
that have fewer options.
It's tough.
It's
really
and
tough.
Under Sam's proposal, I think the upperclassmen would be kind of free to do whatever they'd like. You wonder though also if you'd see a lot more redshirting if you had a 2-year commitment to a guy, where guys wanted to be more willing to redshirt so that they could save a year of eligibility if they don't think it's going to go their way playing time wise. I think there's a lot of implications, and not that I think it's a bad idea because it might be the best solution, but I think there are a lot of unintended implications to a 2-year commitment rule that you'd have to flesh out to figure out if that's the solution you want to undertake.
Yeah, I guess my mind just keeps going to the basketball thing. I think it's a little bit easier in the basketball world to kind of flip rosters and whatnot. Football's so much harder.
Fewer guys you have to flip.
Correct. Football's also like man, how do you do just the one?
Building a basketball roster is fairly easy in terms of if you can get the guys, you only need to get a handful and your fortunes are totally changed.
Correct.
Right? In football, you're talking about probably, minimum 20, 30, 40 guys for you to have a different type of football program.
Still feels like a lot, though.
No, it isn't. It is a lot. That's what I mean. In basketball, I think you can legitimately change your fortune with like 3 guys.
Yeah, maybe 1 even.
Yeah, depending on the level of the guy, right?
Or one that just is the right fit.
Right.
If
you're starting from scratch, you're doing a total rebuild with like 3 guys. If you are smart with the rest of the roster, you could really change things. In football, you're talking about a ton of dudes in order for that to happen. And so you're right. It is way easier to flip a roster in basketball. It's way easier to transform your roster in basketball. How many guys?
Well, also, okay, let's just take locally here.
Yeah.
Look at softball.
Okay.
One player is going to totally transform Nebraska softball.
Well, in softball is unique.
That's also different now because we're talking like.
That's not a normal player.
Yeah.
That's not
the best in the world right now at what they do. So it's a lot different.
You're talking about a totally different level of player. To make that comparison I guess if you wanted to make a college football comparison, would that be like the Caleb Williams almost? That'd be the closest one we have in terms of high profile transfer.
Yeah.
A guy who
both from Oklahoma. How about that?
Right. A guy who was and his track record at Oklahoma obviously wasn't as long as Jordy's was, but a guy who was obviously really prominent, really successful, changes locations. And let's be clear, without Caleb Williams, that USC team looks a lot different than it did last year, right? In terms of the level of success that they had. Not saying Lincoln Riley wouldn't have found somebody, but it wouldn't have been the Heisman winner. It wouldn't have looked like that, right?
It would not have looked like that.
So,
and he might win it again, Heisman again.
I think
he's gonna throw for a lot of yards again. He's gonna be really.
I think there's just such a hesitancy from voters to vote for the same guy twice.
I know, but
if anybody has a chance, Tebow probably had a shot back in the day. That's probably the only one that felt like really legitimate that there was a shot because there was just so much love for him in college.
Tebow, gosh, he was so bad.
In the pros he was, but in college
still be the Jets in the playoff game.
How do you feel about that?
Unbelievable. Cannot believe that happened. And then he went to the Jets and they tried to play.
Was he playing fullback for the Jets?
Thank you, Damon. It was really unbelievable.
Was he playing fullback for the Jets?
Seriously. No, tight end.
He wasn't. It was like an H-back. He wasn't playing quarterback.
Whatever it was.
Anyway,
not.
You know what they call it?
What's that?
Collide. It's a song.
I don't think they do call it that.
What just happened?
Sometimes Shane gets a little drop heavy.
Yeah. I don't. Okay.
It's all right.
I hate when he does that.
Hey,
Shane's become self-aware over there.
Shane, how do you feel not being picked on by Damon for the last weekend?
I'll put my money on Omaha.
Damon Benning is the tailback. This is Damon Benning. Nebraska's looking for the door slammer right here.
Not here. Okay.
He's going to be here tomorrow to record our podcast. You better watch out. He's going to.
He's like, this is for the bourbons and the Cadillacs.
I got to have a little bit of fun, don't I?
Damon, Shane always has a little bit of fun.
But it was like,
what is happening right now?
We're just gonna label this the drop segment.
That's fine. We were talking about the transfer portal and how cool it was.
We were, and now we're totally off the rails here.
Actually, the transfer portal was pretty cool because I do think I just need to think probably harder on
the solution,
what it looks like.
Yeah. I just think there's
maybe
more
by Wednesday I'll have a solution.
I think there's more implications to a rule like that than we're considering right now.
Yeah, it can't just be.
There's going to be some ripple effects there that need to be considered. And again, it still might be the best option.
You probably could have got to it if I wasn't playing a bunch of drops.
Probably.
Or if my computer would, or the internet, whatever, Wi-Fi would.
Instead, we'll get coming up next to Jim Polzin from Wisconsin State Journal. We are going to preview the Wisconsin Badgers. All that and more coming up next here on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Four-man rush, step by. Little pick over the goal line to the 5, to the 10, 15, 20. Torchio to the 30. Hayes to the 40. Torchio to the 50. 45, 40. 35, 30. Hayes to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. And the jewelry thief is in. Touchdown, Wisconsin, coast to coast on the pick 6.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream, here live from the Hail Varsity Club. Ravi, Lulla, Mike Sautter here with you, and we are joined now by Jim Polzin from the Wisconsin State Journal. Jim, how are you today?
Good. How are you guys?
We are doing well. We are previewing Wisconsin on our breakdown of Nebraska's schedule this year. Wisconsin in somewhat of a similar position as Nebraska, getting a new coach in the offseason and arguably the biggest name on the market. Jim, I'm curious, what was the reaction to the hiring of Luke Fickell both in the moment, and how do people feel about him now that he's had a few months on the job?
I would say in the moment there was shock at first. I think probably 85 to 90% of this fan base just assumed that Jim Leonhard was going to get promoted from interim to head coach, and I think I've certainly thought that too. So I don't know that Luke Fickell's name really hadn't come up during the process, and I know, just speaking personally, I kind of looked at him as a guy that had turned down other pretty good jobs and thought he'd be pretty picky, and didn't really think that Wisconsin was a place where he would end up. So when that all kind of developed over the course of 12 hours or something from the end of the regular season to that news coming out, I think people took a while to kind of digest it. But I do think there was an initial excitement that has really just only built since then. Like, I think people are kind of excited by the possibilities. That there's certainly been a new energy that Fickell and his staff have brought to recruiting and just marketing and everything. So I think it's so far without really coaching a game, I think people consider it a big win in terms of the hire.
Speaking of recruiting, you go, I guess, portal, and I look at quarterback, and Tanner Mordecai coming from SMU. Gotta like that, I guess. It feels like probably an upgraded quarterback. I mean, specifically passing. But do you think that the future, maybe not this year, just because of the running back stable that's still there at Wisconsin, do you think Wisconsin's gonna be more of a passing, I guess, threat down the road? I know the new offensive coordinator definitely likes to throw it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different, and I think they are going to throw the ball a little bit more. Even this season, I think they'll throw the ball more than they have in the past. I think that the difference this year is it's more of an up tempo. They're going to run more plays, so there will be more pass plays. They're not going to shy away from the run. They've got Braylon Allen and Jordan Lewis in the backfield. They're not going to go away from that. But yeah, I mean, this quarterback, quarterback is a position that's held them back. Really since Jack Cohn in 2019. Right. They went to the Rose Bowl that season. So they needed to upgrade that position. They did it, and they did it fast. Mordecai was added through the portal. Braden Locke's a guy from Mississippi State that is the backup now. Nick Evers is a former 4-star guy that was at Oklahoma. And then they got a couple recruiting hits for future classes. So they really, over the span of really a month or two, completely changed the dynamic of that room, and really, I think that's one of the reasons fans are, if they were a little skeptical of the Fickell hire, they quickly jumped on board.
Jim, I'm curious, you mentioned the up-tempo style that Phil Longo brings to the table, and we've talked about Tanner Mordecai coming in. They kind of have addressed the quarterback spot. I know they have brought in a bunch of wide receivers that they're excited about, as well as having some returners as well. But is it possible the most challenging part of the up-tempo offense is going to be how that big offensive line adjusts to running that many more plays?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was, that's been an area of that room has not lived up to the standard in recent years. Now, in their defense, part of it is, good luck trying to create running room when you're running the 8 and 9-man boxes all the time. And that's something they just faced. But yeah, it's an adjustment. They seem to be on board with it. That was one of the things in the spring that you just you look for is, how do these guys, what are they saying? How are they acting? Do they seem like they're on board with this change? Because it is a pretty big change. And they seem to like it. They're the new offensive line coach, Jack Bicknell, works them hard. They make a mistake, they have to run. And there was a lot of spring practices where they were running sprints afterwards because of mental errors. But I think it's a little bit like the fan base. It's new and it's exciting, and I think they're all kind of willing to give it a try. And, we'll see. Again, like all this comes down to how you do on Saturdays, and we'll see how that adjustment goes.
The offensive line is, I think, one of the most talented, or I guess clearly deepest position groups on the team. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but feels like that's a pretty good place to start if you're in your first year and you're Luke Fickell and you have all that returning, I guess, as far as offensive line is concerned, and the strength there.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you got a left tackle in Jack Nelson, who some people think might be a first-round pick next year, and Tatterborn Lead, he's another guy who's, again, he's on draft boards, and he's played multiple positions. They brought in a couple transfers. Fickell brought with him from Cincinnati just to kind of, Renfro's, and we didn't see much of Renfro in the spring. So if that's a spot he can lock down, then all of a sudden you look a lot better, because you got a returning right tackle. You've got a guy in Michael Furtney at guard that has played a lot of football here. So yeah, I mean, on paper, it's a pretty good group, and I think it goes back to what you said before: is how big of an adjustment is this to a new up-tempo offense, and how quickly do they adapt?
We're talking with Jim Polzin of the Wisconsin State Journal, previewing the Wisconsin Badgers on our Nebraska football schedule breakdown. As usually is the case when you've got a new quarterback, new OC, a lot of the eyes are on the offensive side of the ball. Talking about players specifically, a lot of eyes are going to be on Tanner Mordecai. But outside of him, is there a newcomer or a couple of guys that you look at as being a pretty major contributor this year?
Now, you mentioned receiver before, and that's another room that they've just completely it's revamped. And you had some holdovers. Chimere Dike is a guy who's played a lot of football here and is a good player. I think he's really going to flourish in this new system. But they brought with them a transfer from Cincinnati, Will Pauling, and the transfer that got the most buzz in the offseason was C.J. Williams from USC.
Yeah.
But I think Pauling was the guy in spring that really stood out and was the most consistent of the bunch. And they'll put him in the slot. He's a guy that can, I think, make some plays over the middle. And then you throw a DK and C.J. Williams on the field. Bryson Green is a transfer from Oklahoma State who's was basically the number 2 receiver at Oklahoma State. Didn't see him in the spring because of a shoulder injury. So he's another guy that's a starter-like quality. So, suddenly that's a room that you just, didn't think a ton about, and through additions, it looks good and it looks exciting, and we'll see what kind of numbers those guys can put up, because again, it's not something that this fan base is used to in terms of receivers putting up numbers.
Braylon Allen wins the Heisman if he does what?
That's a good question. I don't know that. I'm curious to see how the run pass distribution splits up, but he's excited. I mean, there was talk of him transferring after last season. And I think Michigan made a run at him. And I think part of it was just the uncertainty. He really liked Jim Leonard. I think he wanted to kind of see who was next and what they were bringing in. And I think he sat down with Phil Longo and Luke Fickell and was like, yeah, this offense suits me. There's just going to be, like I said before, less running into 8-man boxes and more space to work with in theory. So yeah, I mean, he could put up big numbers. I'm curious to see if Ches Malusi steals some of that production. So, I don't know. Like it's to me, the Heisman is always one of those things that's going to go to one of the best teams in the country. And I just don't think Wisconsin's quite there yet. Like, I just don't think they're a team that's going to win the Big Ten or be in a playoff this season.
Can they win the West? They're clearly, I think the West is pretty open, right?
Yeah, I think that's a realistic goal. I really do. And the schedule is pretty favorable this year in terms of, the crossover games. They have Ohio State. It's at home, but they don't have Michigan. They don't have Penn State. So yeah, I do think they can win the West, and then, but I still think it's an uphill battle to beat whoever comes out of the East, whether it's, Michigan, Penn State, or Ohio State.
That Ohio State game, I believe that's the week after Ohio State plays Penn State. And it's probably going to be it's October. Yeah. So probably a night game, right? And Camp Randall night game would be pretty.
I'll say that might
pretty
be
lit up for that
might be
one.
A nice atmosphere.
And frankly, like if you look at it, if they can get by Iowa and not slip up against Washington State, they have a really good shot. Wisconsin does, is being undefeated going into that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think people around here kind of are eyeing that same path that you are. We'll see. To me, the Washington State game is still kind of tricky. That's a team that beat this team last year,
Right.
so I'm not marking it down as an automatic win. But yeah, I mean, there's a chance to make that Ohio State game a really, really big game, and then you see what happens. But to me, like the talent level across the board, I just think this program's got a little bit of building to do yet before I can put them in the same breath as Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State.
And it helps that the Big Ten West everyone is pretty much not great right now. So
right, yeah, I don't know who you can kind of count on Iowa being Iowa.
Right.
Minnesota's, got a chance. Illinois was good last year. We'll see if that continues. But yeah, I do think Wisconsin's the favorite. I just, I don't know that I would say it's an overwhelming thing.
Mm-hmm. Jim, I'm curious. You mentioned Jim Leonhard. Obviously, not only was a candidate for a head coach, but was before that one of the best defensive coordinators in the conference, certainly, and probably the country as well. Does that put an extra level of scrutiny on Mike Tressel and the job he has to do? Or I guess, how do you view that with, he's kind of replacing both a successful and fairly beloved guy at that spot?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tressel's a pretty low key guy. I think he's handled this pretty well. He's spoken very highly of Leonhard, but you're right. I mean, I've used the word standard a couple times during this conversation. There's a pretty good standard on defense, and it's been one that's been very consistently good over the years. I think the interesting thing is Tressel and Fickell run a little bit different defense. They want to run a 3-3-5 at some point. Leonhard was a 3-4 guy. I think there's kind of going to be tweaks and a little bit of both. You're going to see a little bit of a combo platter with that. But I'm curious to see how that plays out. I'm curious to see how a defense, that if you look around at the country, at the teams in the country that run this air raid offense, it's always a little bit tough on the defense because there are situations where it's 3 and out and you're right back on the field. So again, that's not something these defensive players are typically used to. They're used to getting a pretty good break because the offense, even if it's a 3 and out, is gonna run the ball 2 or 3 times and take some time off the clock and give the defense a chance to rest. So all these things are just kind of, new things that I'm curious to see how they play out in 2023.
Jim, you mentioned the 3-3-5 scheme that Tressel and Fickell are kind of known for. Coming from a 3-4, do you think having at least the same, that odd man front allows for a little bit easier transition personnel-wise to what they're trying to do?
Yeah, I do. That, and the other thing I think that makes it a little bit easier is Hunter Wohler is one of the really good safeties at Wisconsin. He's a guy that was, pretty heavily recruited. They feel like they can move him around, and we saw in the spring that, he is a guy that they can just move all over the defense and be, a little bit of a playmaker. So I think that helps. I mean, the personnel is not completely where they want it yet. I mean, they certainly have, and we saw this in the offseason, but they want to get more safeties on the roster and guys that are a little bit more versatile, can cover, can come up and help with the run. But having a Hunter Wohler certainly helps in terms of what you can do. And there's enough experience kind of at all 3 levels returning that I think they feel like, we can do a little bit of the old, but we can blend in some of the new.
Is there fear at all or any sort of trepidation of, okay, this offense and it's totally going to be different, down the road maybe than what Wisconsin's used to? I guess you can draw a comparison between what Scott Frost tried to do at Nebraska and we're going to come in and the Big Ten's going to have to change for us, which absolutely did not happen. Is there any sort of like that's the comp I can make here, but is there any sort of fear from the fan base maybe at all about, I don't know if I'm going to like this?
I think, yeah, it's funny. It's a good way to put it. I mean, I think there's excitement, and yet there's also a little bit of, fear is a strong word.
Hesitation.
There's nervousness.
Yeah.
Yep. There's hesitation, and there's like, can this work? And we've seen it other places that it didn't work out. It's just going to be so different. And yet I just think if you no fan is the same. But if you kind of poll the fans, I think it's been basically 30 years of
the same thing.
Yeah. And I think, right. And I think there was a lot of winning in there. I don't want to make it seem like these fans are spoiled, but I think they're ready for something different. And that's why I think this was kind of, Luke Fickell was kind of a wow hire. And then when he announced that he was bringing Phil Longo into some version of the air raid, it was like, whoa, like this is just completely different. And we're excited to see how it plays out.
Jim, we appreciate your time. That's Jim.
I got one small one just because I'm a New York Jets fan. And Joe Tippmann is going to be a 10-year starter at center for the Jets, correct? Am I right on this?
I think so. If he stays healthy, I mean, he's a guy that when he was healthy here, he was just really, really, really good, just solid. And I think so. I like that pick a lot. I really do. And I think Joe's a guy who's going to work hard and really fundamentally sound. There's been a lot of good centers here, and I think you can put Tippmann in that same conversation.
That's what I like to hear, Jim. Thank you,
Jim. I apologize. I try and get out of each interview without Mike asking a Jets question, and I'm very rarely successful. I thought I had it done with you, but he snuck in there at the last second. No, Jim, we very much appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll talk to you again down the road.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks.
That is Jim Polzin from the Wisconsin State Journal. So I wanted to talk about Phil Longo a little bit.
Yeah,
because
I think it's just gonna be odd.
So it's
like this year's got to look a lot differently than what next year's gonna do.
Well,
because they're running back.
So there's a couple things with Phil Longo, okay? Because
I don't know if Tanner Mordecai is going to be like as good as people think.
I think he's a good fit for the system,
right?
I think he has really good familiarity with the air raid concepts and things like that. So even if he's not as talented as maybe a guy that they're going to have coming down the road, I think he's a really good transition piece.
No, I mean that's fair.
But here's the thing I wanted to talk about with Phil Longo, though, is I think people they overreact to the air raid tag that he gets.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Because he does run air raid concepts, right, with his passing game.
Yeah.
But okay, you go back to 2020. This guy had two backs at North Carolina that ran for 1,000 yards each in 2020. The
Michael Clark.
I hate you.
Sorry.
At Sam Houston State. Over the course of a couple of years, his team's averaged 240 yards rushing per game. He was at Ole Miss between those two stops.
Right.
This is not your traditional air raid offense, is my point.
No.
In the sense that he's come out and said, especially, he did some pretty in-depth interviews when he got hired at Ole Miss, that yes, he believes in air raid concepts for passing, but he's going to take what the defense gives him. And he's going to shift his mentality to what the roster puts on the table, right? So if you've got Braylon Allen and a huge offensive line, he's going to run the ball more.
Braylon Allen's ability to catch the ball out of the backfield too, like has that.
Yes,
he's just got to show some pass pro stuff, and which I'm guessing because he's huge,
will be fine. Yes, it's a willingness for most running backs. It's a willingness.
Like
in
the
pass
Heisman,
pro.
the Heisman hype is, I think, pretty real because their schedule.
How many wins? 9. They have to win 9.
9. Like the over/under is 8.5.
Right, but I mean they have to win 9. Right?
Yeah.
For it to be reasonable,
I think he for sure.
Well, so let's look at their schedule, right? Let's look at their schedule.
Yeah,
we got it right here. Okay, so Buffalo called a win.
Yeah.
Washington State, I'm going to call that a win.
It's in Pullman though.
Ooh, okay, coin flip.
It might. I mean,
coin flip.
Take the over in that game.
They were 7.
The over/under is probably going to be 85 or something
at least. Yeah. So they were 7-6 last year. That's in Pullman. That's a tough game.
I don't know what what Washington State's offense is going to look like.
Yeah, anymore. I don't know. But, Georgia Southern. That's a win.
Yeah, should be that one. Take the over
at Purdue. That's going to be interesting.
Is Purdue going to be as good as
I don't know?
Have been. I don't.
I really like Ryan Walters. But they've got a new quarterback for the first time in like a decade.
Tough, I think. Tough sledding this year.
They're in a transition at the very end. All right, so we'll call that a win. So we got them at 3 and a coin flip.
Yeah.
3 wins and a
3
coin
and
flip.
a coin flip. Okay.
Rutgers win.
Yeah.
Iowa coin flip.
It's just the rivalry.
Yeah. So we'll call 4 wins and 2 coin flips. At Illinois is going to be really, I think, challenging.
Interesting. It'll probably be like the 11 a.m. game.
Yeah, I'm calling that a coin flip as well. Ohio State, let's call it a loss. Is that fair?
I don't know.
I'm calling it. Let's call it a loss. We good?
Probably, yeah.
I mean,
you feel
at Indiana's a win.
Yeah.
Northwestern's a win.
Yeah. Northwestern's going to have a team.
How do you feel about the Nebraska-Wisconsin game this year?
It's a loss. That's a win.
Win for Wisconsin. Yeah. Okay. And then at Minnesota, I'm going to call a coin flip.
So there's
what we got.
They legitimately could have just
2,
one
3,
loss.
4 coin flips. So let's say they go.
Could Wisconsin be TCU of last year?
Interesting. That's
first year coach.
Interesting question.
Veteran-y quarterback.
A veteran quarterback, although
yeah,
Duggan was there
right,
at
but
TCU, but it's a new offense.
Yeah.
You know. So we've got them at
3-3-5 defense.
8 wins. We've got them at 8 wins, 1 loss, and 4 coin flips. Nope, that's too many.
That's
7 wins.
That's an NFL.
7 wins, 1 loss, and 2 coin flips, or 4 coin flips.
Yeah, 4.
Is that the right number?
I'm
still
telling
too
you,
high.
they could
that's
win,
right.
They could lose 1 game
If they win all 4 of their coin
or
flips,
2.
yes.
I guess in regular season, then lose to Ohio State or Michigan
But
or whoever.
if they go 500 in coin flips, which it's a coin flip, that's kind of the idea. Is you go 500, that puts them at 9. That puts them at 9 wins.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the number they have to get to. If you're seriously talking about Braylon Allen for Heisman, you have to be at 9 wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, you can't.
And they
forget
probably
Caleb Williams
still
at.
I honestly think the repeat thing is his biggest challenge because guys don't want to vote for the same guy twice. It's such a rarefied, it's the Archie Griffin thing. Like nobody wants to touch that again for whatever reason until you get a new base of voters in with people that aren't as established. That's my nice word for old.
Hey, when Michael Severe's here, he's a Heisman voter, or he was.
Well, we can ask him. I'll ask him. I'll ask him. But I think they have to get to 9 wins for Braylon Allen to have a real chance. I think they probably see the problem with their schedule, even though it's relatively navigable.
Navigable? Is that a word?
Ability to navigate.
I'm pretty sure you just.
I think that's a real word.
Navigable.
Let's look it up.
I'm gonna.
The problem is he probably needs to beat Ohio State and have a marquee game for it to be a real thing.
Easy way to move around.
Yeah, navigable.
To easy to move around in.
Your ability to navigate.
Navigable.
Yeah. See, it's a real word.
Yeah, I've never heard it.
Boom. I'm sorry. Some of us use
you're
fancy
educated
SAT words.
Yeah. No, I do.
But he probably needs a marquee win.
Yeah, he does.
Because he only has the one shot at it.
I think you're probably looking at 10. 9 is the 8.5's a good.
8.5's a good over/under number. It's almost like Vegas knows what they're doing.
Take the over.
There's a little bit more Wisconsin stuff I want to get up to next. We still have Brad Klein coming up later to talk British Open. All that and more in the last half hour of Coffee and Cream here on a Monday.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Radio.
lovely way to finish for birdie.
With Roger Radio.
Lovely way to finish for
And with a score of 207
in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Things you wanted us to get to from the Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Things you wanted us to get to from the weekend, but we didn't.
Clean up on aisle 6.
It's the Coffee and Cream Sports Cleanup on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream here on a Monday morning, live from Hail Varsity Club, the H&H Chevrolet stage. I always want to say studio. Am I going to get in trouble if I call it a studio, Shane?
Nah, you can call it that.
It sounds better than stage, in my opinion.
I mean, if you think about it, I'm in a studio over here.
You're in a little studio booth. This is like a studio. It's just a little more open air than most radio studios, which I'm okay.
H&H Chevrolet Arctic Zone. Freezing cold in here.
Listen, the HVAC is not their fault.
You look cold over there?
He's been complaining about it.
It is freezing. I'm going to wear a coat, like an actual winter jacket tomorrow and a hat.
You seem very hurt right now.
I'm not hurt. I'm cold. I'm not hurt. Hurt and cold are different.
Right now. You do seem hurt right now. Are you
I'm
okay?
not hurt.
You going to make it?
What did we need to clean up?
Well, first of all, we need
the British Open happened.
We need to clean up our lovely sponsors, Dyer Law. We love Dyer Law.
Yeah,
they have you covered. Personal injury.
Maybe I need to go to Dyer Law for some.
You might have a personal injury if you keep complaining about this cold air. Not that I would be responsible. You never know what's going to happen. They also do workman's comp. You can give them a call at 402-393-7529.
This would also be workman's comp.
or visit them on the web at dyer.law. That's DYER.law. Whether it's personal injury, workman's comp, whether you have a hostile work environment, because Mike Sautter is
cold,
never stops complaining about everything.
That's not true.
You can call our friends at Dyer Law and they will get you sorted out. Okay, so sports cleanup. We're going to get to the British Open here with Brad Klein at 9:43. So we don't need to clean that up right now.
U.S. women won the World Cup.
They did 3-0. You were a little disappointed.
Very disappointed. I thought it'd be more like 8-0 or something.
They'll play again on Wednesday, and we might.
It was Tuesday. It's Wednesday, huh?
I looked at the schedule. Unless ESPN app is lying to me,
probably correct. I'm probably off.
We might get a chance to talk to somebody about the U.S. women's national team on Wednesday as well. Later this week, we've got some Big Ten media days coming up. A lot of the fine people over here at Hurrdat Sports will be headed to Indianapolis, including one of your normal hosts, Damon Benning. Him and Andrew will be back.
How many
next
hands
week.
do you think Damon's going to shake there?
All of them.
Over under 200 a day.
Over
200.
Way over
a day.
I don't know. A day.
That's a lot.
So I think he's only there for 2 days, right?
I don't know.
Travels Wednesdays there, Thursday, Friday. Does that sound right, Shane?
Okay.
It was like,
okay, from Wednesday through Friday, over under 300.
Over.
Yeah.
I don't know about 200 a day, but over 300 for the whole time he's there.
Yeah.
Over 300 for the
for
whole
2
time.
days.
Yeah, absolutely. Which he's going to hate.
300. Him? Fist bumping people.
Yeah, he'll fist bump.
Man.
He'll be having a good time.
He'll
doing
fist
it.
bump. No, I think he'll be in his element.
My man.
He'll fist bump everybody. He loves he'll do the fist bump.
He'll be my man. That's what he does. It's just that.
he does.
It's always my man, and it's like a side fist bump.
Little side fist bump.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Side fist bump. He said, "My man," or it's a.
He's not Denzel.
Or it's
man.
like a dap you up with a one arm hug thing. Bring you in.
Yeah, it's the bro hug.
Bring you in.
You start with the handshake. You
the
start with the handshake.
Pregame football coach walk around.
Yeah,
you know that one.
It's coach in general. It's not exclusive to football. A lot of coaches will do the dap up that way.
Yeah.
The half hug, the bro hug.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna do that a lot.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of.
So we need video of this.
A lot of coach hugs.
Can we get video of that?
Well, you'll have to ask somebody else that's gonna be out there.
I will.
I'm not going.
I'm not. I'm moving.
I've got to be
I'm
here.
moving.
I got to be here.
I'm moving.
Somebody has to host the show.
I'll trade you.
No, 1,000,000% not
Move
moving.
my house on
especially not if it's not my own stuff.
And it's going to be 190 degrees outside.
It's just a regular 100.
Maybe I should come in here before I actually move, and then
I feel like the difference is the shock would kill you. Going from that much cold to that hot, you might actually just die.
Yeah.
The key is you start hot, stay hot. That way you're used to it.
I don't mind hot. I love
No, I'm okay with the heat. I hate moving, so I'm not
in Vegas.
helping
It
you
was
move.
116 degrees.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat.
It's different. Yeah, it was hot, but it wasn't
doable. Oppressive.
No,
oppressively hot.
Yeah,
when it gets to like 104 here with 90% humidity, that's oppressively hot.
Yeah, you can't
Don't
breathe
like
outside.
That. Yeah, honestly, I know people make fun of it. The dry heat is way easier to breathe in.
Yeah, it is for sure.
The like heavy moisture in the air is what kills you.
It's still hot though.
Yeah, it's still hot.
So is your New York going to be pretty nice? I mean,
I was going to cuss. Yes, it will be.
I assume that was probably a big
You
selling
got a nice yard for Jet to run around.
I definitely looked. I walked
the yards
the yard.
are a big deal.
I walked the yard before. I made sure we walked the yard before we said yes to.
Let's say yes to the house. What's the?
I literally, when I say I walked the yard, I mean I walked.
You're a big yard guy, though, aren't you? Yeah, like with the mowing and all that kind of stuff.
I don't edge it. Edge and trim, two different things, but I do trim, like square off my sidewalks and everything.
You don't edge it every time.
Pretty much every single time.
How often do you mow?
I don't know.
Is it like twice a week?
Sometimes.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Sometimes it's twice a week. Sometimes it's once a week. Sometimes it's once a week and I double cut it.
Oh, jeez. So you got the lines.
Oh yeah, my lines are great.
Your lines are on point.
They're definitely on point.
You could
Yeah, my
sub in for
hey,
the Storm
man,
Chasers.
We're not messing around.
What would double cutting do? I mean, just teach me real quick.
Clean it up. Make sure it's all you don't miss
nice.
any.
I mean, you're mowing it twice is essentially
Basically,
what you're doing.
Yeah, you're just mowing it twice.
Yeah, you go straight. Like if you want to do,
you do
square,
diagonals one way, then you go diagonals
or
the
if you
other
want to
way.
do square or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, however you want to do it, but it kind of just cleans it up so you don't have any strays just flying around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you make like the
catching strays is tough.
You may
caught strays before.
I've heard
it ain't good.
I've heard
catching strays is not recommended.
Yeah. So this has been mostly the nonsense cleanups, not so much sports cleanup.
Sports cleanup. Cubs have won. Cubs won 3 out of 4 over the Cardinals.
Nobody cares.
That's amazing.
No, so I was watching the Red Sox game last night.
James Harden scrubbed the 76ers. What's the deal with scrubbing from social media the teams? Why
it's like a real passive aggressive thing. Saquon Barkley did it with the Giants.
Seems very immature.
It is. It's like a little kid thing to do.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Red Sox won. Orioles are still good.
So I was watching the Red Sox game last night, and it's they're not. I mean, the Red Sox are fine, but the AL East is good, so the Red Sox don't matter.
When you scrub, can you just do it like one touch and just get it done, or do you have to go through each?
You scrub the strays.
You know, I heard that you don't want no scrubs.
Get that?
There you go.
Oh wow.
Just waterfalls.
Yeah, we're going all the way back. We're going TLC here.
The Orioles are in first place. The Baltimore Orioles are in first place.
It's been a minute since that's happened.
By 2 games. Over the Rays. The Rays are always good.
The Rays are always good.
Playing a
They
dump.
never spend any money. It's incredible.
Why can't the A's be the Rays?
Well, they used to be. The A's used to be the Rays. In the early 2000s,
That's
they were
true.
the Rays.
Yeah.
On budget,
True.
they did things well. It's just really hard
Both
to do
playing dumps
for a long time.
Both playing real
both playing
stadiums.
terrible like the worst stadiums in the league. It's just really hard to win that way consistently for a long period of time.
Is it?
It is, because it's the harder way to do it, because you have to hit on prospects, you have to sell high on them.
So you're telling me the people that are the GMs and the
It's
people
hard
in
to
charge
do.
that are getting paid a lot of money.
Yes. Baseball is
need to work hard.
I genuinely believe baseball is the biggest crapshoot when it comes to drafting. The number of guys, like if you go through an NBA,
you can also look at the Royals and they.
Yeah, right. But you can go through the NBA, and maybe they're just not as good at their jobs as some people, because it seems like some people do it pretty consistently. But you go through like the NBA or even the NFL, and you go through a first round versus Major League Baseball.
That's totally
The draft misses early in baseball. The percentage is way higher. It's just really hard to project the difference between Major League Baseball and like high school or college. There's, I think, a bigger gap there than there is in basketball or football. And the skills are harder to project, I think.
True.
It's just really, really challenging. Because you can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. It doesn't mean you can hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball.
That's a little bit faster.
It's a lot, and it's
a lot.
It's a lot faster.
Yeah.
And the margin of error is so small.
And a curveball is
and then
it breaks a lot more.
Yeah, we're not
sliders,
even.
all that.
Well, and it breaks more, and it's coming faster.
Right.
I mean, some guys are throwing like 98-mile-an-hour sliders now. Get out of
No,
here.
they're not.
Yes, they are, dude.
That's impossible.
Follow Pitching Ninja. It's the dumbest thing in the world. It looks impossible.
I would try.
It looks like witchcraft.
I could try it. I'm always good for a challenge.
You're not making contact on any of that.
I'm always good for a challenge.
You wouldn't even.
I wouldn't
see
stand
it.
in there. No,
You wouldn't see it. Coming up next, Brad Klein to talk about the British Open here on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
What a lovely way to finish for a birdie at the last. It's a round of 70. Of course he did.
And with a score of 271, the winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Brian Harmon.
Welcome back to Coffee and Cream here on a Monday from the H&H Chevrolet studio. Want to give a shout out to our friends over at Zipline Brewing. Want to tell you about their Acres Ale. It's an authentic American beer brewed with Nebraska corn, crisp and clean with a light, refreshing flavor. Locally brewed, a perfect beer to wind down at the end of your day. That's the Acres Ale from Zipline. Right now, we are talking to our friend Brad Klein, former PGA Tour caddy. Brad, how are you today?
You know, it took me 2 hours to peel off my rain suit from watching the Open at home.
Yeah. So let's, Brad, let's just start with our winner, Brian Harmon, a guy who had not done a ton of winning on tour, did have a handful of solid finishes at majors. I guess just to you, how surprising of a win was this for him?
Not really. First of all, the guy's won $29 million over about 11 years, so he's not exactly a slouch.
Sure.
He's been regularly ranked in the top 50. He's got 2 wins. You know, the last one was 2017, but he's had a run of recent very strong finishes. And don't forget, he was 3rd-round leader at Erin Hill in the U.S. Open in 2017 before he faltered. So it's not like he's, you know, he's one of these very good golfers. They're all very good if they've got their card for that long. And it was just a golf course, you know, it's a combination of things. He's playing well. The course suits his modest game plan, and he's got an unbelievable short game, and he hits fairways. So that's a good combination.
He did, and how scary do you think? Maybe not. I don't know. Scary is the word, but what Rahm did to come back and kind of push him, knowing that Rahm's one of the, I don't know what, top 5. That set in, or do you think his experience of, hey, I was a 3rd-round leader and I let that one slip away, do you think he probably learned from that?
Well, he surely learned, but you know, it's also a matter of then being in a position where you can remember that, because that was 6 years ago. You know, by the way, Rahm, after the round, they asked Rahm about it, and he said there's nothing anyone could have done because Harman played unbelievably well. So the respect that they show for each other on the tour, you know, the media has been a little bit savage, in their treatment of Harman, and obviously the crowd was disappointed that it wasn't Tommy Fleetwood or Rory McIlroy, and they were rather boorish, I have to say, for a British crowd dealing with Harman. But the players certainly know what a great golfer he is, and they have a tremendous amount of respect. But you know, the other thing is, it's very hard historically to come back from a 63 in a major. I think we heard yesterday on the telecast that the average score after shooting a 63 in a major is 71, and Rahm shot a 70. So he didn't play badly. It's just Harman did not screw up. You know, he didn't deviate from his plan.
Brad, I'm curious because you mentioned obviously Brian has been a very solid golfer on tour for a long time. You mentioned a kind of a perennial top 50 type ranking. I think for people that are maybe more casual golf fans like myself, tune in for, you know, the majors and maybe a couple other events during the year. Is it possible that we perceive the gap between the guys whose names we're more familiar with is maybe a little bit bigger than it is in reality?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the media do a terrible job of explaining this stuff. You know, they refer to Harman as a short hitter. He hits at 294 on average. You know, that's elite top 1/100th of 1% of all golfers. So and the media, you know, typical, and with all the social media and the self-appointed experts and the guys on Twitter and everybody, if it isn't one of 5 names or Ricky Fowler, they don't know who's out there. So it's a pathetic display by, I would say, the opining public. Maybe that's the way to put it on this matter. It wasn't helped, I have to say. I thought there was an awful column last night on golfdigest.com by Joel Beal, basically dismissing the whole thing as a dud. And that's the kind of mentality that I think is just, it shows how ignorant and narrow-minded too many golf writers are. You know, they play this game of access journalism. They want to suck up to the stars and the fawning coverage of a very small number of players. The same thing happens on golf courses, by the way. You know, there are 16,000 golf courses, but you only read about 9 of them. So, it's a very narrow, poorly informed writing team out there generally.
I want to talk about Jason Day for a minute and kind of his, I guess, run and had a really nice tournament. Do you think this can maybe propel him back to, I guess, closer to being the world #1 that he was before than what he is now?
I think Jason Day's resurgence this year is one of the stories, along with Ricky Fowler. They both won after long droughts. Day, I think it was Byron Nelson. I may be wrong there. I think he won that one after a long struggle. You know, he had dropped a couple of years ago. He was number 150 in the world. Combination of injuries, some personal stuff with family issues, plus who knows what goes on with your swing. And he was really struggling. Plus, he had also, and he's had recurring bouts of vertigo. Obviously, everybody remembers the time at Chambers Bay in 2015 when he collapsed by the 9th green. And he had another bout of vertigo, I believe, at this year's Masters. So to overcome that kind of stuff, very impressive. And he played really well. He gave it a run, but without Harmon faltering, nobody had a chance.
Yeah.
We're talking with Brad Klein, former PGA Tour caddy. I'm curious. You obviously were not surprised by the performance of Harmon. Was there anybody, either for the better or worse, whose performance at the Open did kind of catch you off guard a little bit?
Well, I can't say it caught me off guard, but it was very interesting to see the long hitters, DeChambeau, Koepka in particular, who just struggled because that golf course rewards accuracy rather than length. And, it's a classic links golf course where you have to steer the ball. Everybody, I think, remembers back in 2006 when Tiger Woods won, he used one driver all week. He was hitting irons because what you had to do out there is you had to avoid the bunkers. Those bunkers were incredibly penal. The fact that Brian Harmon was in 2 bunkers all week is astonishing. I played that course. I was in 2 bunkers after the second hole. So, I didn't get out of either of them. So, the skill, those are bunkers that are punitive. It's nice to see old-fashioned golf. I kind of feel sorry for the members who have to do it every day. But for elite players, they're not used to bunkers that are really punitive. If you were in a fairway bunker, you were hitting out sideways. There was absolutely no chance of advancing the ball to the green. And it took a lot of skill, and we saw all sorts of people on one leg and, tapping the ball to another position. The golf course was softened marginally by the decision on Friday morning to rake the bunkers a little differently so that the ball settled at the bottom rather than up against the wall. I think that was a good move. I think that's something they should do normally for play. That's not something members face in Scotland and England, where the bunkers are raked flat floored. They're brutal. They were a little softened, but I think it made for a more playable, but still punitive golf course.
Is there anything worse than playing in just a kind of spitting rain like they had to yesterday? I mean, wind probably, but
well, I've played in spitting snow and ice. That's not fun.
Okay, that's not as fun.
No, but
it's just that annoying rain, right?
Well, I had a great time watching the caddies. As a former tour caddy, I've caddied in miserable weather. The worst weather ever I caddied in was 1979 in Memorial. It was about 40 degrees, wind chill about 20, a 20-mile-an-hour horizontal rain. Watson shot 69. The average field score was 79, I think. And you just want to crawl up and go to bed. So the job the caddies did, I thought, was remarkable. And if you notice, if the player carries the umbrella, the caddy just gets soaked.
Yeah.
I have to say the modern golf bag is really waterproof. The grips stay dry. Nobody reverted to those mafia gloves. The black mafia gloves, they actually perform better when they're wet. That's what I do. When I play in the rain, I try to keep the grips dry. And then by the 12th hole, I give up. I throw all the grips on the ground, get them as wet as possible, and put my mafia gloves on. They didn't have to do that. The caddies did a fantastic job. Nobody got their eye poked out, and with the umbrella. And I loved it. At one point, when Rom turned his cap, he put the rally cap on, and then they showed a fan behind him turning his rally cap on.
Yeah, the water doesn't drip.
He took his hat off, but he doesn't wear glasses. So if you wear glasses, it's really a problem. But yeah, playing in the rain is an entirely different thing. Your drives are going 40 yards shorter. The ball doesn't roll out. It's a totally different ground game.
Brad Klein, thank you so much for joining us, former PGA Tour caddy. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
That's Brad Klein. You can follow him on Twitter at Bradley S. Klein. That's all for today, Mike Sautter.
See you tomorrow.
How'd we do?
Coffee and cream.
You feel all right?
We kind of are a little bit.
Well,
if you like a lot of cream in your coffee, this is kind of what it looks like.
We'll be back tomorrow, maybe, probably. This has been Coffee and Cream. We'll see you tomorrow.